What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 2 of the Rare Candy Roundtable. We got some great guests here today. All guys I respect. I like their work. I like their content. Whatever they do, I'm trying to find out more of it. That's why I invited them here, because I respect them. I care about their opinion. I think they'll be able to teach me something today, and if you pay attention, they might teach you something too. So I'm going to go around the room and introduce everybody, and we'll get started on today's topics. And thank y'all for joining us. We really appreciate it. And I will say, while I got you, join the Discord. You can be part of this thing. We got people down here now watching us, some other content creators and friends and stuff that going to support us while we do this, and you can be part of this too if you join. All right, so Mike, if you want to kick it off.
Sure, yeah. So my name is Mike. I am the owner of Outtheboxtcg. I make and sell custom Pokemon battle decks. Eventually, the game plan is to move into Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh as well, but currently just Pokemon. Longtime collector and father of 3.
Nice.
All right, I'm Blake. Pokeball cards. I've been doing the YouTube content game for less than 5 months now, so pretty new to it. Been having a lot of fun, but I've been in and out of just Pokemon card collecting throughout the years. I was one of those 90s kids that grew up collecting the cards as a kid. Definitely heavily influenced by Pokemon as a kid. Watched the anime, played way too much of the Game Boy games. Did the whole typical thing where I kind of grew out of it and then came back later. And so anyway, excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, and I am Brian. I am also known as PokeBryBry, as you can see. I own Grail Vault Collections. I actually started this whole Pokemon thing in January, but also 90s kid, Pokemon 90s kid, and was heavily in through Gen 1 and the WotC era. Got out of it during mid-era. Met my wife in high school, and we got married like 2013. Then both realized we both loved Pokemon. Got back into it. I think like our first or second year of marriage, like we spent our entire tax return on like black and white XY sets.
That's how you know
like,
it's real
we
love.
actually didn't do that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
True love right there.
Yeah, back in the day when like XY Evolutions was like $90 a box because no one wanted it. Those are like the days, right? And so we collected heavily for like, I don't know, maybe a few years, then got out of it, and then recently came back during the like right before the end of Sword and Shield, and then been going hard ever since. So yeah, it's kind of my gig.
Right. And like I said, I enjoy all these guys. Mike, I was just saying before we started recording that if I got a question about a deck, he's my go-to. He helps me. He's helped me evolve in how I build decks, and just looking at some of his work and his attitude toward making them, it's really awesome. With Pokeball, I mean, I watch all his videos. I enjoy his content. I like his takes on like the markets and how what cards he finds valuable are usually the cards I found valuable, if that makes sense, because the value is something that's kind of in your eye and your feelings, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like same thing with Dakota on the first episode. I feel like some of the ways he thought made me comfortable with some of the ways I think. I feel like it's the same way with Blake at Pokeball, and I enjoy all of his videos. You should check him out if you haven't. And everybody knows PokeBryBry. He showed up on the scene and just exploded. If you ain't watched his videos yet, then what are you doing? He's great production quality. The guy's got a media background. I can't wait to hear more about that. I mean, don't judge me for my background, but hopefully it'll look better after this conversation, because he's going to teach us some stuff today. The first thing that I really want to start on is like all the new sets coming. We'll go ahead and just jump into that part, because I know that's going to be, like if we start there, then we can build on that. So Journey Together, Saturday I went for the pre-release, and Ty told me in the Discord that this is actually the biggest pre-release event sales numbers that they've done in this era. So I can tell you, when I was there, people showed up. They ran out of everything. It wasn't a bad time. Everybody was friendly. Nobody was being a jerk. We all had good times. People were ripping some great cards. A lot of Ionos, a lot of ends rush around. Everybody pulling stuff left and right. It was really cool. But Journey Together looks exciting. my thing is, what do you guys think about some of the like the trainer cards that are in specifically that set, not like Heatwave Arena, but specifically that set? What do you think about some of those, some of the Illustrator Rare stuff like that?
Sure. So I don't. So this is, I guess, like my own opinion. Obviously, everybody has their own opinion on things. I'm not a huge fan of the trainer cards. Like, not necessarily the artwork and everything. Like, it looks beautiful, but just like Hops Pokemon or Ends Pokemon, just in general. Like, I've never been back in the day. Granted, with Gym Hero, gym leaders and everything, it was a little bit different because it was like that's what I grew up on.
Right.
But even then, like, it didn't compare to Fossil. It didn't compare to base set. So I'm going to collect it. I'm going to use the cards and decks and everything like that. But I've never been like blown away necessarily by that. And even from like a deck building perspective, right? Like one of the one things you couldn't do in any of the Pokemon games was catch somebody else's Pokemon, right? If the Pokemon has a trainer, you can't catch their Pokemon. So the way I feel like with the decks, like the cards, they're my Pokemon. Like I want to play with my own Pokemon. So if it has a trainer's name on it, like not a huge fan, but there's a handful of cards that are going to be able to be used in decks. But besides that, that's just like my take on it. I'm just not like blown away by it. I'm more excited for after and Rocket and that, you know, after that. So I was hoping that people kind of, you know, the hype died down a little bit and might be able to find cards in the store and stuff like that. But now after you said about the pre-release, maybe that was wishful thinking on my end.
Yeah, well, see, that's why I'm glad that you're here, because I can ask you about that from, like you said, from a deck building standpoint. Because I went in there, they gave us a build and battle box. They gave us 4 packs, you know, with that. And I was able to build it. They gave me like 20 minutes to like put a deck together. And that's what I did. So like I did get to try out Hops deck. I did get to try out Ends deck and play with some of that stuff. And it was interesting. Like as a mechanic, I see what they're going for. But I had to say that I kind of agree with you where I can see it as a limiting thing. Now, if you go into it with this strategy and this and that, like it could be fun. Like you and your boys all got one of the, you know, trainers and you're doing it like that. It could be fun. But I get what you're saying. It kind of is limiting, and it does kind of go against the meta. If you think about the story of, like you said, you can't use Lily's Pokemon. Like that's kind of silly. Like I get what you're saying there, and that's a good point. Blake, what do you think about them?
Yeah, I have kind of mixed feelings. Well, so I have mixed feelings about this set. I kind of was hoping when the cards were revealed that I would get a little bit more of that like Gym Heroes, Gym Challenge feel. Because I've always liked those sets, and I've, you know, made a video recently talking about how I'm going to finally go and collect those for binder copies, and I've been working on that slowly. I've always liked the alternative, you know, artwork of those original 151 Pokemon in Gym Heroes and Gym Challenge. I think that was kind of part of what I loved about it, was even with Team Rocket, right? You were getting different artists, different variations, you know, of those classic Pokemon that we like. But yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with Mike that, like, you know, I don't necessarily have a strong tie to the trainers themselves. So I guess I can see his point that, you know, usually when you know, especially in the Game Boy game, when you catch a Pokemon, it's your Pokemon, right? You can even name it, you know, in the game something else, and a lot of times you come up with all these silly names for them. But I do think it's a cool set. I think it's smaller than I was hoping it would be. I was hoping it would be a larger set, to be a little bit more full featured. I was actually hoping they would include like some older trainers from other generations. Like the fact that we kind of stuck with just newer trainers was a little bit of a bummer to me, because I definitely understand that that's going to hit the younger crowd. That you know, those are their trainers. That's what they're growing up with. That's where their nostalgia is going to be. But I like that Pokemon usually throughout the years, they kind of mix in different eras and different generations so that they get all generations involved. And I would have loved to see a little bit more of that in this set, honestly. So I think that, coupled with the extremely high price right now, I'm like not as tuned into it as I normally would be, you know, and maybe not quite as excited as I normally would be. But I do think it's a solid set. I think the art's really nice. You know, even though it's like a cutesy card, I think that Lily's Clefairy is pretty legit. Awesome. I saw it. The Salamence is really cool. All of N's cards all of N's cards look really good. Yeah, it'll be kind of one of those that I'll probably wait until like all the hype dies down, you know?
Yeah.
And then maybe get into. I'm hoping I can open some on release, but it's all going to depend on if I get some from my LGS at a reasonable price or not. So
Right. Yeah, that was one of the points here is the cost. I have that written here. That was like one of the things I want to know I wanted to know a little bit about Mike and what he thought about the strategy for sure. And obviously he's not having fun with the idea of it. But what do you think, Brian? What do you think? Like, what cards stand out? I mean, I like the Articuno. I like you said, I love the Salamence. I saw the Lily's Clefairy, and it totally sold me. I was kind of, like against. I don't know. I was like, what are they doing there? But I saw it in person, and the card is beautiful. I want it now. Like, I really do. It's a beautiful card. It made me want to play the deck, and people were smashing with that deck, which I expected Hop to be the breakthrough performer because it's all about buff and damage, and you got the Snorlax that adds like 30 extra attack to any of Hop's Pokemon you play. So like whatever move you're doing, you got an extra 30 automatically, and so like you can build off that. You can give them the choice belt, get some free stuff. There's a bunch of ways you can build off it, which it was interesting. But what do you think, Brian?
Yeah, it is interesting because at least for me, I did play the game competitively for a little bit, and so I got out of it, in the past couple of years, and just focused more on collecting. But so with this, I was like, I think I need to probably just understand the meta a little bit more, because I have a couple of friends who are heavy competitive in the Seattle area. Like one of them just won the junior regionals in Vancouver.
Sick.
And so they've been hitting me up and like, hey, can you build me a deck with all your extra cards? And I was like, all right, let me get familiar with the meta again. I'm a little bit out of it. And so I was looking at it. And one thing I like, from an artwork standpoint, I've always loved when Pokemon goes more themed, like when you can do like tag teams, or you can do like the gym trainer, because it kind of immerses you back into the games of feeling like, oh yeah, this is like that person's Pokemon. Mm-hmm. So I like that aspect that they brought that back. And from like, I was looking at some of the trainer cards just now, and I was like, oh, like they kind of have like, I did play a little bit of Magic back in the day too, where it's like I love building tribal decks, so I kind of like how they have a little bit of that tribal thing going on. Yeah. Whether or not that actually hits, I'm not very familiar with the meta. I'm kind of like, oh, that's interesting, because now I can build an end deck because I love all the Zoroark and the Reshiram. Yes. So I think it's kind of cool. They did a little bit of that in the past, but I feel like it'd be interesting to see how hard in the paint they go with this kind of like tribal kind of vibe with making more trainers for that. But yeah, from artwork standpoint, I've always felt like more recently now getting the Japanese that I'm probably going to be disappointed with how the English variant looks compared to the Japanese. So from a collecting standpoint, yeah, all of the art rares, I'm like, how are the art rares undervalued in Japanese compared to English? Yeah, because they're just so beautiful in the way they make them. But yeah, I think overall, I like that they're kind of bringing back that more thematic element of trainers with their Pokemon, because I think that's been such a cool thing I've always loved with the tag team and stuff like that. And so
yeah, well, one thing I'm worried about with that is like the spreading of the energies. So like a lot of times, like to play certain stadium cards, they're telling you can pick up electric energy, so you need that electric energy so you can put it on your colorless. You start having to mix energy. So like for new players, that can be kind of a scary thing to be like, I want to bring just my energy, I don't want to bring, you know what I mean? So like I think they're kind of making people push their stuff. We had new people the other day that was smashing folks that never played before, so that's cool. And I want to be clear that I'm not super good at the game or nothing. I just enjoy it, and I enjoy strategy. But I like watching people who are really good at that, because there's some people that are sick. Especially seeing that in person can blow your mind, make you really think about playing the game more. And I do want to talk to you a little bit, Blake, about the vintage decks you've been doing. Have you built any new ones? I know you're running that Lifesteal deck, the Alakazam. Have you built any new ones?
Yeah, so I'm working on two other ones right now. I'm working on a Dragonite deck where you use Dragonite and Dodrio basically to get rid of any effects that are on your Pokemon. Mm-hmm. And then I'm also doing a Mewtwo Mew Aerodactyl deck. So it's like a de-evolution deck where you basically use Mew to de-evolve any. So it's like a really good like anti-Rainmaker deck, or like any of the other evolution-based decks from the base set area. Mew can like crush the evolution. Aerodactyl prevents them from evolving, and then Mewtwo is just like a really good attacker.
Yep.
But I'll show this a little bit real quick. I don't know if I might have to get rid of the. This is me like filling out, just a whole bunch of old cards, old Pokemon, all that kind of stuff. I don't know. Was that blurry the whole time?
It was blurry.
Let me try to get rid of the blur here.
You got the vibe.
You have to set it to none. Yeah.
I'm trying to not show you guys all my junk in the background since this is not zoomed in, but it looks like we're going to have to just show it. So yeah,
What set is it?
I've been collecting, a whole bunch of old cards, old trainers, all that kind of stuff to build various decks. You need a whole bunch of Kangaskhans and Hitmonchans and breeders and traders, and you got Mewtwo there, and Aerodactyls and Mucks and Dittos and all that kind of stuff. So working on some other decks, but it takes time and it's a lot of fun, honestly. The base fossil for me is great because it really strikes that like just nostalgic feeling as a kid of seeing those cards while I'm playing them. But honestly, I didn't play much when I was a kid. Like I barely played the game a little bit. I was mostly just a collector, and I've always been kind of a collector first. So it's fun to see them in a new light and to appreciate some of the cards that I never really appreciated before. I mean, a classic example is Mr. Mime. He's an absolute beast in base through fossil format, and yet it's the Pokemon that like nobody ever really cares about growing up. I didn't care about it, so it's like it definitely gives you a different appreciation. I think playing the game, I could see how it would do that as well. Just even playing modern formats, but for me, it's fun because I always have a nostalgic tie to those old cards, and a lot of them just sit in my binder. And I don't look through them that often. And now that I'm putting them in decks, it's like I'm getting them out more and I'm seeing them more. And that's fun, I think.
Right.
So
it's like when you when you get a little bit older and you go back and watch a movie you watched from when you were younger, and you're like, I understand this a little differently now, but I still like it. It's like that same kind of thing, at least for me. And you're absolutely right, because like most of my vintage stuff just sits in this stored up in the box, and like you got me wanting to pull them out and go through and start doing that. I don't know. I hope you inspire a lot more people to do that, because it's excellent fun playing it that way, the old school way. And I don't know, it's pretty cool. I love that video. Y'all should check that video out. He explains the whole Alakazam deck. It's really sick.
I appreciate it. That's a fun deck, by the way.
Yeah, it is. That's
you want to build a deck? It's a fun deck right there. You'll piss off your opponent, but but it's a good time,
But it was a good one to do a video on. You knew what you were doing with that, and like that. I mean, it was a good one. So we know that the cost and all that stuff is crazy. We also know this is a smaller set, and that the pull rates are a little bit easier. A little bit. I mean, like I said, we had so many people sitting around, and everybody was pulling Ionos. Everybody was pulling. So it wasn't like everybody, but like I'd say 4 people during the time I was there pulled Iono, either in their beginning deck or in their deck for prize. In their pack for prize. So like the pull rates are pretty simple on this. I don't know how easy it'd be to get everyone if you pulled them by packs. Probably, back in the day, you used to be able to get a case and you could get the whole set. But nowadays you can't do that. So I can't really equate to what it would really be. But the cost.
Were they pulling SIRs?
Yeah, people were pulling them. Yeah,
they were pulling SIRs.
Yeah.
Wow.
People were pulling like the Zacian, like everything in the all the rare things got pulled while we were there. At least one of them.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty sick.
I mean, I think any pull rates have to be better than Prismatic, at least.
Yeah.
Pre or after, I think it might go back to normal.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I don't know, just that the cost kind of bothered me a lot, especially with the size of it and all that. It's like, you shouldn't have to buy too much of this to get close to mastering it, at least to get close to getting stuff to trade to master it. So like, I guess they're upcharged. I mean, it's like upcharging on the set, but really it's just people trying to make money. I mean, we know what this thing is. But what do y'all think about, sets like Heat Wave and stuff in Japan that are popping up and the price of them? Like this Gloria Team Rocket is going to like people are going to go into debt trying to get that thing. Like it's like trying to get a house.
Yeah,
Well, I noticed even Japanese has gone up price point wise. Just I guess I was one of them who considered, you know what, I can't get my hands on English. I'm going to move on over, and I think a lot of people had that same idea. So you're starting to notice the prices on booster boxes of those going up as well. I mean, it's going to be at least on the level of Prismatic, if not bigger. Just because of how many more people came back and kind of going to at least stick it out for the next few sets, and I think test the waters and see if they're able to get product and continue to collect. So it's definitely going to be difficult.
Yeah,
No,
definitely.
let's have Brian go first.
I was going to ask him. Yeah, I was just going to ask him what he like he buys. Brian is like literally going in every aspect of the business that you can. He is trying to do a little bit of everything to see what his thing is. And guys, I can't say how awesome it is to have somebody as an example that does that, because it's like, you know, he don't know exactly what he wants to do or whatever. I don't know how he's thinking or feeling, but he's trying everything. Every time I see something, he's like, you know what, guys, we're grading today. You know what, guys, we're going to go do this. I'm running a booth. I'm doing it. He's trying a little bit of everything in the business. Now he's building decks for people. So like the guy's trying everything. And I think that is such a good way to be when you want to, I mean, do what we're doing. I want to be more like that. I want to learn to emulate that. So like, how has that been? I know you're buying Japanese and doing all that now. So you've seen the price hikes, you know, all that stuff, but I also want to know, like, how the hell do you do it? Like, I mean, do you still have fun? Is this enjoyable? Is all your time spent doing a different Pokemon activity? Like, I got to know.
No, yeah. I mean, with the price hikes, it's interesting because obviously we use the same guy to get our product, Harrison, obviously. So, you know, kind of going back and forth with him and getting his sense of being like, hey, what's going to happen? Are we going to get good prices? Is it going to go through the roof? And of course, he's just like, you know, I don't know what to do with Pokemon anymore. Like, it'll maybe go down after release.
That's okay. What he always says, yeah.
Right. And so it's and then we find out that Pokemon printed this set into the ground. And then literally the 2 hours after release, prices go down $50, right? And so it's kind of this thing of being like, there is that FOMO line that you have to play of being like, it could go up, it could go down. Now, I didn't buy into the FOMO of getting it before release. I did wait 2 hours, but then he dropped it, you know, the price after the 2 hours. And so I think because of that, you know, I think the fun aspect of it is, since, you know, I am a collector first, it's exciting to be able to just have products. Of course, I can't get high on my own supply, so I don't rip it all. I have to sell it. Same. But I think there's that aspect of like, of knowing, it's going, hey, I do have the recent set, and then if we can, you know, we'll buy it off the business and we'll rip it and we'll have fun, right? And so as far as like me kind of jumping between things, again, it kind of goes into like some of the questions you had for me of like, because I'm seeing growth on my platform, it's kind of been this like one of two ways to where I have to double down on what people feel like they know me for, but also at the same time figure out exactly where my niche is, and then also keeping in mind what all the successful people are doing. And so I have to kind of ride these three different like balances of like, all right, getting into sealed. Like, I think Pokey just dropped a video this week about like, don't rely on rip and ships as your main business model because it's gonna fail. Like, you need to do sealed. And so I'm like, okay, like him, Alpha Investments, they're all going the sealed route. So I have to be like, all right, let me just invest into a lot of sealed, have it on hand, and if I run out, you know, I can save money if I buy more, so I don't have to pay shipping, all that stuff. So then obviously I have to kind of like see. At least for me, I'm not doing everything because there's something to do. I really am only going after stuff because I'm already connected to it. So like the building decks, because I play competitively, because I know people, I'm like, okay, I can dive back into that as a way to bring revenue into the business, right? Like, for example, like I know people have said, hey, like, for example, you're doing Michael, you're doing Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic and Pokemon, right? Is that what I think you said?
Right now, just Pokemon, but the game plan is eventually moved to the other two, yeah.
Right. And so like for me, I was kind of like, yeah, those are the big three. And one day if I play my cards right, I can get a distro and they can give me all three, but I'm like, I don't know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh. So I'm not going to supply Yu-Gi-Oh because I could get it, or I know people who could offload their collections to me and I could sell it. I want to make sure I'm actually an expert or have an interest in what I want to sell and provide. So that's why it's like on my site, I just dropped, like, I played One Piece competitively a little bit, collected it, and then of course Pokemon at the game, and then Magic the Gathering. So like for me, I'm trying all these different things to see, one, who are those audiences, who are those customer bases, and one, what could I do in order like to make it fun for me, like talking about the game, talking about collecting, talking about the market and all that stuff. That's all fun. And so, but if I were to try to get into something because like it's a money generator, I'd probably just burn out, because I'd just try to figure out a way to chase something. Even if there's a lot of money in Yu-Gi-Oh or Lorcana, I'm not going to do it because I don't know anything about it.
Right.
But yeah. So anyway, that's kind of like for me of like how I keep it fun for myself, is I'm trying to find these avenues within the selling aspect that kind of all points back to helping me generate revenue through these different ways of the hobbies. So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I want people listening to pay attention to what he said. Like everything he said there, the main things that really will help you is, he said collector first. I'm a collector first. So you're going to sound like you're speaking on something you're passionate about. People know they can trust you because you're coming from the heart. Like it's literally what you feel. Like so they don't have to agree with you, but they know you're telling how it is. And you know, like just the respect and the passion. Like I'm not just going to sell it because I need the money. I want to have a passion for it. I want to have an interest in it. I want it to matter to me. Or that's, you're right. The burnout will come if you don't. And I think for anybody that's going to try to do this whole business thing, that's something they need to consider. It's like, are they in it for the money? Are they in it for the love of the game? Do they like watching numbers go up? What is it that they're doing? Figure that out first. But always keep yourself centered in what it is that makes you enjoy it. I don't know. I liked your answer. I think that's awesome. What did you have to say earlier, like about the price of the Japanese and stuff?
Oh, yeah, just, we see this happen a lot. Like this has gone in cycles where anytime the English market gets too hot, Japanese market gets elevated.
Yep.
Last time this happened, it was like a 2.5 year Japanese bull run that it sparked. I don't know if it'll necessarily do the same thing this time. I would, caution people, if they're on the investing side, I probably wouldn't buy the Japanese boxes at these elevated prices.
Right.
If you're new to this market, Pokemon Japan and the English side are very different with the way that they do print runs. Like, I think Japan released probably, was it like 7 or 8 waves of V-Star Universe?
Yeah.
Booster boxes, just like boom, 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 just kept releasing them every like 2-3 months. There'd be like another wave of V-Star Universe until the price crashed all the way down into like the 50s, 60s. So if a set is really popular in Japan, I mean, they will keep printing it. So I don't know. I think if you're paying the elevated prices right now, you just have to know, hey, I'm paying extra to have it now. Great. I just wouldn't go crazy on like the investing side of it at the moment. I'd wait for the prices to settle down, wait for more of those waves to hit. You're really better off investing the stuff that's kind of more out of the limelight. Maybe it's a good time to go get some Paradise Dragona or like some of these others that came out like, early fall, late last summer. Those are probably a little safer to get your hands on if you're investing in Japanese, but just something to think about for people that might be new, or like, oh, this is a normal price. It's like, well, not really. I mean, a Japanese MSRP, I want to say, is like somewhere in the mid 30s, mid upper 30s, something like that by the time you pay all the, import fees and everything. So, it's pretty typical to be able to get Japanese boxes for $45, $50, $40, something like that. So, when they're 3 times that, it's like, okay, just be careful. If you're just buying it to rip it and have fun, great, go for it, but just, I thought I'd just mention that, at least from the investing side, just to be careful.
Excellent point. And you're right. Especially, I mean, the Paradise Dragona too. I think that was a safe play right there. Right now, that would be one of the sets to go after. It's got some good stuff in it too. So, I mean, we're going to have to talk about it eventually, but Destined Rivals. So that set's going to come out. We know that's going to be the one that breaks the internet, that breaks the Pokemon hobby. Everything's going to burn down. Nostalgianomic's going to quit. Everything's going to turn around on its head because of that set when it comes out. I don't know. The videos are going to be insane. That's all I'm to say. The content creators will be going crazy. It'll be an interesting time to be in this space as a creator and as someone who sells Pokemon cards. I don't even know if I'll be able to get it for the site. It's crazy. One thing I do want to say is that I think when Prismatic went to drop, the day before that, they put Journey Together up on the Pokemon site for pre-order. So you might want to check the Pokemon Center the day before the Journey Together comes out. You know, they might do some ETBs or something. I don't know. I'm just a reminder. But
I'll say on that, good luck.
yeah.
I got a bunch of sets like up to Prismatic. I could not get Journey Together.
Yeah.
I tried that morning.
Yeah, I did.
Couldn't get a single one.
Yeah, I did too. I tried for both of them.
So good luck. Go for it. But but it's going to be very hard.
Yeah, the bots will win. The bots will win.
I made it into the cart when I found out. I think my collector app alerted me at like, I don't know, it was 5 a.m. I was like, oh my gosh, Journey Together's coming out. So I got on the site. It took a couple minutes. It was starting to crash, and then I got in the cart, and then it said it was out. And it kind of did that thing where it said, hey, where the site's under main or whatever it was. It said, hey, unavailable right now.
Yeah.
I checked like an hour later. My cart was empty, but refreshed it. My cart was full again. And I was like, wait a second, is it back in? Yeah, it was a nightmare.
Oh, man. That's what it's been like to try to shop with them lately, man. I don't know. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on with the hobby, but with Destined Rivals coming, a lot of people that are hearing about that and probably are jumping in to make that quick buck too. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on. So more bots, more people in that side of the space. What are y'all? Let's look to the good side of it though. Let's not look on the negative right now. What are y'all looking forward to about that? One thing, I mean, everybody knows I love Team Rocket. It's one of the things I collect. I'm hoping to see, a good Persian, the classics. But I would like to see something, some things that give a little homage to the show too. I'd like to see a Wobbuffet. I would love that. A Rockets Wobbuffet would be pretty cool. My daughter loves him, and I think that would be awesome for her to get that card because she wants it. But I don't know. There's a lot of cool things that they could do. A Mewtwo card with Giovanni in the background or something. That would be pretty sick. Let's go.
Epic.
That would be the card of the century. I would probably.
Come on, bring us a Mewtwo SIR.
Yeah.
For Mewtwo being the strongest, he's just in all the cards. He's just never portrayed that like his attacks are weak. His health is like, come on, you need like a good Mewtwo card.
Yeah,
Pokemon.
He got shorted on the Terra. He's electric type in the what set was it? I was like, that's the best. Not even a full art. Come on, guys.
Pokemon would be stupid not to put a Mewtwo in there.
Oh, they're for sure.
They'd be insane.
But I just want it to be like I said, I would like to have Giovanni in the picture too, because I think that card would just go so hard. Yeah. Like I think people would just seeing that on the market would be insane. It would be fun to watch in a weird way, just like watching a car crash. They say you're not supposed to look at it. It would be like that for me. But
it seems like they're continuing the owner's Pokemon trend.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised if you get one. Yeah.
That's the hope.
I would even be okay with like the Pokemon Pocket. I don't know if you guys seen it. Him in the tank, like even something like that would be great. Art from Pocket in general is pretty dope. But I would be happy with that. But I do like Giovanni in the background would be sick if they did that.
Dope.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised because with what's the card with Gengar? Is it Morty's Conviction? Every time I had a Morty's Conviction, it sold so fast for so much. I'm like, I know it's a Gengar card. I think what people said. It's not a Morty. Even if they do that and Mewtwo's just there, I think people will just buy it up because it's Mewtwo and Giovanni are in it. But yeah.
And Morty's Conviction only had half of Gengar in it.
That's true.
The other half's in a manhole,
Yeah, if the hype is like that for that card, it's going to be insane if they do something with Mewtwo's Giovanni. So
I agree.
What's some other cards that
could be the next Moonbreon?
Mewtwo,
yeah. Y'all got any cards that y'all would want to see in that set, or anything you'd hope to see?
I'm just excited for that Ho-Oh that they revealed.
Yes.
It maybe could have been a touch stronger, but I think by the time that card gets texture, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Now, I've been still bummed there was never a Ho-Oh and Silver Tempest to go with Lugia. So I'm glad a Ho-Oh is finally getting some love.
Yes.
Even though I'm more of a Lugia fan than Ho-Oh, I love Ho-Oh too. So yeah.
Definitely doesn't get the love over here as much as it should. Over in Japan, they love Ho-Oh. You know what I mean? It's like a deity to them. But it's like over here, there's not enough love for Ho. I completely agree, and I've seen your video on that. Excellent one. But
he was always my go-to. I know Lugia is everybody's favorite, but I Pokemon Gold was my game before I moved on to Crystal. I didn't have Silver. I had Gold, so
that's cool.
he's my go-to.
I had Silver.
What do you, Mike? What do you hope to see, like from a competitive standpoint, from those? I know you don't like the trainers decks. I know that the theme like is kind of something you're not really vibing with right now. But like, what would you hope to see in that? Like, you get a good card, you get a Mewtwo card. What would you hope that it could do, or kind of strats do you think they should be able to do?
Well, not even necessarily like if I would just like a strong Mewtwo card in general, but like for the game as like a whole, I would like to see just more types get involved. Like it's always you have your specific like 1, 2, 3 decks, whether it be Dragon or Charizard being Dark, whatever the case may be. But like the fighting decks don't really get too much play, and that's why I like my Terra Greninja deck, because he's a fighting Pokemon instead of a water Pokemon. Or colorless decks, they kind of need a energy boost with like a double colorless energy or something like that. But I think there needs to be more consistency, and I said this kind of when I first started, was like what they should have done is they're banging out sets, right? So every couple months there's a new set coming up, so they should focus each set around 3 different types and make those kind of the types. This one's going to have fighting, electric, psychic. The next one's going to have fire, grass, water, whatever the case may be, and then that way it has a good variety. So that's all I'm hoping for and kind of want from every set, is just a good variety of different types. So then that way the game is different, because what happens is everybody plays the same 4 decks or 3 decks, and you're running into constantly playing Dragapult, constantly playing Charizard. So I would just like to see a nice variety of being able to come up with these unique or different type decks that usually don't see play. That's kind of all I hope from every set, whether it be Destined Rivals or the next set after that.
That's what I like about what you do. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, do you think Pokemon like pretty heavily tests these cards prior to release, or do you think they roughly say, we think these cards will do well, but we'll just see what happens when we what I'm saying? Like, how much research do you think Pokemon puts into, we think these will be the decks, we think these will be the cards that really take off?
Well, I think it's geared each set. It's like 80-20. 80% is just for collectors. Mm-hmm. And granted, more people are kind of coming into the game and playing, but I think just collectors in general, that's their sell point, right? As long as they got good Pokemon, good art, they know that they're going to sell regardless. And then I think there's the 20% of cards where like, hey, this might be good in a deck. You could use that. And that's kind of been consistent since I can remember. Is say there's 130 cards in the set, or 150 cards. 1/5 of that set is playable, and the rest is you could use it, but like, is it really going to compete? I think they look at it, but not too deep.
I'm just wondering, with that 20% though that they are setting aside for playability, do you think they're heavily testing those a lot to try to figure out what works well together?
I would say to some extent, yeah, because they sell battle decks, right? So they have league battle decks, they have the basic battle decks that are out there. So they have, and they're not half bad, the ones that they put together. So to an extent, like, they have to know how to play, and everybody has an attack and whatever the trainers do. So I'm thinking they know, they just maybe don't care as much, and they rather just focus in on main Pokemon, good artwork, and whatever. Because if you look even now, like, some of the Pokemon are just OP, right? And then there's other Pokemon like, why is this even an EX? Like, he doesn't do anything. He's never going to see the field ever. So what is the point?
that's one of the things I was going to ask you about is like, do you think, like, I know you say this 80-20 thing, but like, do you think they need to cater a little bit more to the playability? Do you think that maybe like every 3 sets they put out a set that's like really about the players? You know, just something like
I think yeah.
that. And then
I mean, I
the
think that
other
would be
sets they can have
cool
subs and things you can build onto that, but it's more about the collectors. But then that third set is going to be like heavy for the players. I was thinking about something like that would work, but
yeah, and I don't think they would lose on it either, is because of the fact that people are still going to collect it, right? Even if the playability is all focused on playing it, as long as the Pokemon's on it and it has, you know, good artwork,
yeah,
they're going to buy it. So I don't think it would hurt them at all. But I guess overall, you know, they have their artists that do a certain thing. They have, I guess, the creators, whoever come up with the attacks and everything. So maybe they'd have to have more focus on that end of it. But I would enjoy it personally if they did something like that. And I also don't think it would hurt them whatsoever because people would still buy it up.
I think it's also interesting, like what happens when, because obviously Japan gets their sets earlier. Well, we do too, I guess. But the Japanese meta gets to figure out what's good first before everyone else does.
Yep.
And so I don't know if I was right on this when I was kind of following this. I listen to like the Uncommon Energy podcast every once in a while to kind of see their take on it. And it's always interesting to see like Azul GG and those guys who are like bring their decks with their teams and being like, yeah, this is the deck we're running. And then 6 months later, you see Pokemon Company come out with like a League Battle deck that matches what they homebrewed. So I'm like, okay, like you said, like how much do they think about it versus being like, here's some cards, let's just see what the meta happens to be, and then maybe we'll make some products around the good ones. You know, I don't know if that's true or not. That's what it felt like to me, where I was just like, wait a second, wasn't this homebrewed by like some random couple of dudes like playing here in America, or was this the Japanese meta that came up with this? And so. I mean, yeah, it's always interesting to see what if Pokemon Company actually thinks about the player base, especially because it's kind of like out there first for Japan before the rest of the world. But
and that's what I really like about what Mike does is he's creative with it. You know, you can go buy a deck, like you said, you can go buy a deck right now for $15-$20 or something, and play what they get, maybe add to it or mess around with it a little bit, but what he does is he like kind of gets creative with it. He tries to make something that is fun and like it can compete, but you know, it's also got the pretty cards in it. Because me, as somebody who plays, I want to have pretty cards too. That's why I don't mind them doing some cards that are, you know, I don't mind the IRs and SIRs. Some people complain about that. They're like, there's too much of it. You know, they're making it too much about this or that. And I mean, I don't mind that. It is more expensive. Like my Hisuian Zoroark deck, I had to pay like $20-something for the Hisuian Zoroark to go into that deck because I wanted at least one of the nice ones, you know, to pull that out every now and then. And I don't know, I could see them doing a battle style set that still has that collectability. They could totally do that. You know, it might cost them money on the back end because they're paying more freelance artists to do more work, but you know, they're gonna make their money. You know that. I mean, but
well, it's actually.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's interesting. The Japanese Gengar VMAX was only printed in a deck.
Yeah.
So like the Gengar VMAX from Fusion Strike that we have in the set in Japan, it's just it's a deck card.
Yeah.
And it looks amazing, you know.
Yeah.
But that card's still way expensive, and it was a deck card.
Right, and you know that the Mega Gengar that they've already announced is coming for the new set is going to be in the deck in Japan. That's how it's going to get released, and we'll probably get it as a promo, or it'll come in a box, you know, or something like that. But yeah, they're going to just same thing. They're sticking to the same thing. It's kind of like history repeating itself a little bit. But I'm excited about the Mega stuff.
I do hope from sorry, cut you off. I was gonna say I do hope from a competitive standpoint with the Team Rocket, if Mewtwo does get juiced, I will build a Mewtwo deck to the moon. It's kind of like like you were saying, like Charizard for the longest time. Everyone loves Charizard. Charizard was not playable until was it Obsidian Flames that he came out, and then everyone was playing Charizard for like a year. And so I'm hoping Mewtwo gets its break and everyone's just playing Mewtwo. And again, I love the thematic tribal element. So hopefully, I'm sorry, I am a control player. So
No,
I hope they
nice.
can kind of play into the Team Rocket, dirty, control style. That'd be kind of a fun thing. But I just like how Pokemon in general has been doing more archetypes and doing more of that than just kind of like, 120, 220 to the face. And so hopefully they kind of play in that a bit.
I'm not 100% satisfied with like how they did Milotic. Like I know that we just had our SIRs and stuff with Surgeon Sparks and all this. I'm not saying that they had to give her the top card. I'm just saying that like competitively it didn't blow me away, and so I don't know how that's going to be. But the Garchomp, a lot of these other trainer Pokemon are like the cards look awesome. So I mean, I'm excited just to see it, but I don't know how it's going to go down competitively. I'm still looking forward to testing that out. What were you saying? Like,
It's really not very important, but it sounds really stupid. But one thing that keeps me from playing the modern TCG is those darn EX cards. And I guess you just have to pony up and buy the SIR version or whatever.
mhm,
But I really wish that they would make something a little classier.
yeah,
I don't know.
I agree.
It's just too over the top for me.
Hmm.
And I think they act like kids need that to be engaged. But I mean, look at like the baby shinies from Paldean Fates. Those
Dude,
cards look amazing. Kids
love
love those cards. They're a lot more classy, a lot more like just a lot cleaner. And I'm like, I think there's other things that they could do with EXs that would make them feel more collectible, that would let you kind of enjoy both the collecting and the playability at the same time. That's just one thing that's kind of frustrating to me is how, I don't know, just
I would have
I don't like
liked.
those, you know?
I would have liked if they just kept the V style. The V style were
it.
basically full arts, right? I mean,
Hmm.
it wasn't a full art, but like, it had the whole art on the card, and
It was
I was
better. Yeah.
expecting it with the EX, and then you're just like you're stuck in a box, and
No,
that
that's an
was. I mean,
excellent
some
point.
of them
And
break
it's like,
out. Some,
coming out of the screen. I'm just
yeah.
like, okay. I mean, I don't know. It's like watching a Transformers movie. It's
Yeah,
like,
you're
okay,
right.
there's not a lot of substance to that, you know?
Yeah, you're right. 100%.
I want to see. I also personally prefer when real artists make something versus just a computer. You know, and I'm sure there's a computer. Excuse me. There's a real artist making the EX cards with a computer, but
Right.
that CGI graphics that's over the top just doesn't evoke an emotion when you see it. You know, like a natural work of
Right.
art that somebody else has made. So I just love to see that. I mean, even a lot of the hollows, plain old, commons, uncommons, and hollows look much better than those EX cards.
Yes, they do.
You know,
Sure.
They do. Now, talking about the art, we can shift over to our next topic, and that's the online play and the games. Now, the TCG Pocket came out. That's probably one of the reasons we got so many more people joining the hobby because they're like they tried that they're even playing the game. It's like a smaller version of the card game, but it's more condensed. But yeah, so we got a lot of new people coming from that. But the art and some of those cards, I'm like, I want them to really print these sets. Like, there's a couple of cards that just blow me away, and they went all out for some of that, and I can see why because they're trying to entice people into the hobby. They're doing a great job. Uh, do any of y'all play any of the games, Mike? I know you probably get on live at least to build decks. I can't wait to hear about that. But like, do y'all play Pocket? Have y'all tried out that any?
I do play Pocket. One big thing that if anybody is getting into the TCG, I recommend playing live and not Pocket because it's a totally different
Yep.
game.
Hmm.
And I feel like there's a confusion between that. Like, oh, I can play the Pocket version, totally different. So I just want to put that out there. Um, and I like it. I mean, like you said, it's simplified, right? It's I think what 20 card decks, and the
Hmm.
artwork is phenomenal on some of those cards. It's just very repetitive, and
Hmm.
I mean it's just the same plays over and over. And I swear, after you win like 5 6 games in a row, then they cheat you out and you get the worst hands over and over again. And then like the rotation setup is a little weird for the wonder picks, but
Yeah.
overall I think it was a great idea on their end of getting more people into the hobby and getting people involved. And I I bought a couple proxies of those cards, and I hope
Yeah.
I hope they have a good idea in the future, kind of like how they did with Pokemon Go and the Pogo set. Like bring
Yes.
them on over, put a set together for those. I'd be all for it.
Okay, guys, here's the thing. So when you guys were talking about that, I opened up my Pocket app. So I was like, hey, have I got my daily pack opening? Okay, guys, here's the thing. Let me just show you this. So
Yeah.
there's a couple of shinies in there, guys.
Yeah.
We should do a live opening here.
Here we go. Let's see it. Well, we should blow him up real quick.
What's
Yeah,
good?
where is it? Well, come on, lighting. Oh no, let's go. Here we go. What is that?
Oh, nice.
Okay, I got the back
Ooh,
right.
dynamite. All
Yeah,
right.
nice. Yes,
And
the art's
then
sick.
Oh,
Nice.
leaf
let's go.
Sick.
Anyways, yeah, I opened it because I was like, oh wait, because I kind of played it quite a bit too because I was, I went hard when it first came out. Of course, I
Me
played
too.
Mewtwo Guardy. Sorry again for anyone
Me
that
too.
played Mewtwo Guardy.
I
And
did too.
then I kind of got burnt a little bit kind of after. Was it the mini set that came out in
Mhm.
December or whatever? But I kind of jumped off and I was like, you know what, I'm trying to grind too hard on this thing. I'm like opening up my app every other minute I can to get, to get the ranks or whatever. But yeah, I think Pocket is a great like way to kind of jumpstart into the game. I think for
Yeah.
people who are like who don't want to get involved with the big interface and signing up, the fact that it's just like really easy on your phone, I feel like having that as an opportunity for people to get in the hobby is great for Pokemon.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, like I would agree with both of you. I think brilliant idea to create TCG Pocket. I also agree that it's a huge part of what's pulling people in right now. I mean, the whole market just exploded very shortly after the release of that app. So it feels like too much of a coincidence,
Mhm.
And they I think within 2 weeks they had like 30 million downloads or something like that. It was crazy, So it's very clearly getting people interested in that. They're brilliant too to give you two free packs a day. It's like they Pokemon's our drug dealer, and they're just giving you just a little bit each day.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. And they're definitely getting people more interested in the real cards. I admit, for me, like I at first was opening them up regularly, trying to build decks, starting to play. But I kind of would struggle because I'd go from like playing the computer to playing a real person, and it felt a little bit like it was pay to win at that point. Like the people
Yeah.
that had just paid to open a bunch of packs were crushing me.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's some imbalance there where it's like you can't really get evenly matched. It feels like, and so I kind of sort of just gave up on it. I don't know. For me, there's something about a physical card, like
Yep.
there's just something about holding one of these physical cards. You go out, you buy the card or you buy a pack, and like maybe the fact too that it does cost you something and that there is like a little bit of a hunt with it.
Mhm.
And it's not just an RNG simulator,
Yeah.
that just makes it a little bit more exciting for me. So I think it's a good gateway to get people interested in the hobby, but for me, like it'll just never come close to the real cards.
Yeah.
I hope it stays that way for other people because I want to see the real card game thrive,
Mhm.
over the years to come. But hey, if it's a way to get people interested, kind of get their foot in the door, that's awesome. I think everybody wins from that.
I think it's also a good vehicle for them to test out things on card play. So like they can put some interesting moves and interesting buffs and debuffs on things, and just to see how it would work competitively. Would anybody play this Pokemon if it had this move? Like, I think it's an opportunity for their team to really just try it because, like we were saying, a lot of these people don't know anything about competitive Pokemon playing or anything. So, like, they have nothing to compare it to. So, they can play with it how they want to, kind of like see, oh, maybe we should put this in the real card game. Same thing with the art. What if we get really loud with this Pokemon? Would they like that? Well, they love that card, so maybe we should try that in real life. So I think it's a good opportunity too for the company to like, play around a little bit. Which is what
It
I'm
could
hoping
be
for.
really now. Maybe they've added this and I just haven't been paying attention, but it could be cool if they had like a rotation of decks that you could just try.
Mhm.
And it's
They
like
do.
they do. They have that. Okay.
Once you pull a certain amount of cards, it unlocks test
Reels.
decks.
Yeah, yeah,
Essentially.
yeah.
Okay. And
Like
are they
starter
cards
deck.
only that you've pulled, or are they
No.
like other cards that you haven't pulled yet?
You've pulled the major card from it. So you pull, Lieutenant
Gotcha.
Surge and you get the Lieutenant Surge deck. Like you pull Blaine and you get the Blaine deck. Like it's that kind of thing. It's a couple of cards, but you pull a couple of them.
It could be cool if it was like this week only. You can play this deck. You don't even necessarily own the card, but then you're like, oh dang, that was fun. I want to get that card.
Yeah.
That could be a smart marketing tactic too for them to like make you chase some things. But
you might have just gave them a good idea. You might have just gave them a real good idea. Now TCG Live, that also is an excellent resource. Now, Pocket is good to introduce you. TCG Live, we all know we get the code card in the back of the pack. Everybody throws them in the trash. I don't. I collect them. I got a whole big old box full of them, and I scan them whenever I'm bored every now and then. And I test out deck building and see what works together and what really, really doesn't. Believe me, I found that out a lot. But I enjoy TCG Live for that reason. You don't have to really know what you're doing at first. You can just get in there and mess around. Ain't nobody gonna judge you. You can go in a casual match. You can go in, open packs after you've got done opening your packs, which is kind of cool sometimes. And then you can just play with stuff, how you want to, and learn how to build a deck. Mike, do you, how much does that help you in your work and what you do? Because you make a lot of different decks, and I don't know. I imagine that would be a good resource to like test them and stuff like that.
Yeah, so that's how I learned how to play and kind of start on this journey altogether. Like I collected probably till about like 10, 11, and then I kind of fell out. My brother sold all my cards, and I just said, I'm not getting back into
That
it.
hurts.
And then it was like, yeah, trust me, it hurt because I could pay off my house with some of those cards. But so it was like a little bit before COVID and kind of that hype happened, and both my sons were like, "Hey, can we start collecting Pokemon cards?" And I was like, "Shit, heck yeah!" Like I'm back in. So
Yep.
so I went crazy getting a bunch of stuff right, and then my youngest son was like, "How do you play?" And I was like, like I had no idea. Like I said, I always collected. I played, quote unquote, but like I never followed the rules, never knew how to play. So I downloaded TC. I forgot what it was called at the time because they just changed it to TCG Live. It might have been TCG Online at the time. But from top to bottom, man, it taught me everything I knew, and then kind of from there, I picked up and rolled. And even now, whenever I get an idea for a deck, I plug everything in to TCG Online and I give it a test run, right? So I know kind of where to rank it in my ranking scale for one of how competitive it is, and then also to see if it's even worth being a deck. Like if it gets trashed consistently over and over, chances are somebody might be upset if they buy it, even if it is at a beginner level, because they could just buy it from Pokemon directly and kind of test one of those decks. So I always give everything like a nice trial run, anywhere from like 5 to 10 matches, depending on how well it's doing, and then pick up and kind of roll with it from there. So it's huge. It's huge. Definitely helps.
Do either of y'all use it at all? I mean, I know that Brian, I don't think you have time to be on there building decks all day. You got too much going on, but I don't know. Blake, do you ever get on there and build decks that way? I know you're not really into the modern stuff, and they don't got vintage on there, so I don't know.
Yeah, I've never done it, but honestly, that's something I should check out sometime. I really should. I've been curious about it, so but I've never even gone to the website, never even typed in the address. So,
well, we kind of talked about a little bit about like how it had a Pocket had an effect by bringing people into it. Do you think these games in any way could have a negative effect on the hobby? Do you think that there's anything that they could do that has a negative effect? Like the whole gambling idea, and like you were saying, marketing tactics that you can do in the game. You can test those strategies there too, and now you might want to bring that into the real world. Like, I mean, there's things that I've heard other people talking about that I never thought about that. So I was just wondering if you guys had any thoughts on what these games mean to the hobby as a whole. Is it positive, negative? We know it's bringing in more people. Maybe they're hiring new artists and seeing new people work or whatever. But I mean, if y'all don't have an opinion on that, we can move on to the next topic. And really, this is an interesting one for me. I think for everybody right now, because there's a lot of controversy around it, and some of us have used this platform on both ends. So like, I'd like to get an opinion on it. Whatnot. I know we're gonna have to talk about it eventually. So they got a lot of stuff going on. They always, let's be honest, they always have a lot of stuff going on. But even lately, it's been crazy. I mean, people doing stuff on camera that I can't even say in a YouTube video. So and it gets pretty bad, and it makes people that are good on there look bad. And as a lot of people are, I don't know how the app's still running with the way that people talk about it in comment sections. I don't know how much of the internet you guys see talking about it, but I mean, watch a rattle video and then look at the comments under that. Now, Brian, I know that you have, you play in everything you can, trying to see what your niche is and what you enjoy. I'm sure you did great. I didn't get to make it to that stream, even though I wanted to. Yeah, I was with my daughter, and it was one of those nights she didn't want to go to bed, so I didn't get to make it that night. But I do want to hear about your experience on selling on the platform, and how you were received by your viewers, and what you think about the controversies that they're going through right now.
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, honestly, I'm still on the fence about Whatnot, even though I streamed on it and it was very successful for me. I think because one, I like to kind of like to egg on controversy a little bit too. If you guys follow me on my socials, I like to just like dish it back to people who want to be idiots on social media and not nice.
Right.
And so I kind of like so when it comes to Whatnot, I mean, one, I do think that there are a lot of really good, honest sellers and honest people who are on any of the platforms, TikTok or whatever. At the same time, just like with Pocket or anything, people will exploit whatever they can, which sucks. So I know that if you want to make a quick buck and have quick profits, sure, you can be scummy about it. But at least for me, I want to build something that's more generational long term. So I want to use every sales channel for myself as honest as I can, even if it's amongst other scummy people. And so I think that being said, it's kind of like with Whatnot, for me, like I love ripping packs. So the fact that some of the biggest controversies are around rip and shippers, I was like, selling singles on Whatnot was harder for me because it's not, I don't really enjoy that as much, especially if it's digital. Like that's why I loved vending that show, more talking with people. Here's the card, let's talk about it versus kind of like popping it up over a webcam. But the rip and ship part was actually the most fun for me because I'm a collector and I love ripping packs.
Right.
And that happens to also be the most controversial part of Whatnot. It's so I think personally there just needs to be more, I don't want to say more people on there, but I think that it is possible for the bad eggs to be weeded out and for more of the good sellers to be in there and to actually show, like for me on my stream, I think I posted on my Instagram, like literally trying to like just play into the whole controversy of me kind of being sketchy on stream with a rip and ship. Obviously what happened was a card flipped out of my hand and everyone it was funny for everyone. So I think for me it was fun to be able to play into this idea of being like, hey, I'm a sketchy Whatnot streamer, come and hang out. But obviously, yeah. And so I think like part of that is, I try to play into some of those bad eggs in the scene to sort of be like, hey, let me kind of show you a part of it that is actually a lot more honest and more fun and not just about making money and people with their little blades and ripping, going through packs at 1,000,000 miles an hour. I'm like, how do you enjoy the cards anymore if you're just like trying to find the hits?
Right.
And so I think, and for me, I mean, maybe there'll be a point where it gets like where I need to be, I got 50 Q or whatever people and I need to get through packs, but I want to be able to sit there and enjoy it with people the way I enjoy ripping packs. So
Absolutely.
if someone's in there if someone is like, hey, you're too slow and I need to get my hits, I'm like, sorry, dude, this is the way I do it. I want to enjoy the cards as I rip them, So I think I'm just trying to be a little bit different approach, even though I am using the same tactics that everyone else is to make money. So I'm indifferent. I mean, I thought about, should I just go to YouTube or a different platform for the sake of not being a Whatnot streamer? But I'm like, nah, I don't care. I'm going to do it the way I want to do it, but I want to have an honest approach. I'm not going to charge you a rip on stream fee. I'm just going to charge you enough to make my Whatnot feedback, which is like 50 cents on a pack or whatever it is, So Yeah, I'm still indifferent about it. I'm gonna do my second one this week and ripping Heatwave, so
Right.
it'll be kind of another experience of being like, do I actually like this, or do I just want to sell sealed to people?
Awesome.
But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I look forward to trying to catch that next stream and check you out. That sounds awesome.
yeah,
Now I agree with you, and there's a lot of scummy stuff that goes on there, especially with the rip and shippers, and that whole culture is just kind of got a lot of darkness around it. And that's, a few bad actors can turn people's stomachs pretty quick. And I don't know, with the single side, I can understand not liking that because I feel like that game is just you're hyping something and you're giving people 5 seconds. They can't make any really you want to play on their impulses, and I feel like that is not that that's scummy, but it is not shady. You know what I'm saying? Like it is shady. It is you know that if you gave them time to Google the card, that they would know that you're overcharging. So like, I mean, and some people do it well, but, I think my problem lies not as much with the people that are doing these crappy things, but with Whatnot themselves. Their inability to regulate, when they do catch somebody breaking the law or, abusing their child or all kinds of things have happened on Whatnot streams, and they have done nothing to punish the people, hold anybody accountable, none of that. They even lie to customers in emails. Like, it's pretty crazy, and I don't see how that is something. I guess people's addiction to getting packs ripped and stuff like that has they just make money anyway, so they don't care. But I don't know. I don't know what it's like over there, but I mean, I was just curious as somebody who's been on that platform, like, how do you feel about the way they regulate it? And how do you feel about the way that you know what I mean?
yeah. I would say I know they're trying, but I don't think they're trying hard enough. I
Mhm,
think at this point now with the bad rap, I think they need to have a pretty strict vetting process where it's like if you violate, I mean, it's just like these other platforms. Like if I do a clown emoji on TikTok, the AI recognizes it and deletes my comment, right? I
mhm,
think they need to figure out a way to have those stronger regulations of like if there's something that's not being seen, you're gonna get banned. Like I think they need to be able to crack down on the people who are abusing the platform.
mhm.
That way, it can make room for the people who are doing good with their hobbies or their businesses and using it as a tool. But yeah,
They probably look at it like that'd be them losing money though. So like they're trying to figure out a way around that, but you got to vet your people if you're going to do that.
right,
I'm not like
right.
anti whatnot. I get on there every now and then, but I just I'm really really cautious about how I do it. And I don't know, I just especially new people to the hobby, they might think that's a good way to go. And I'm just, be cautious of what you do. Find good people, like you said. There's great people out there that do it. You are a very honest person. You care about your reputation. You're not going to get on there make $1,000. You throw your reputation in the trash. You're not going to do that.
Yeah,
I'm pretty
right.
confident in that fact. But that whole culture is just something that I don't know. I feel like has it. So how do you guys feel about that culture? Blake, how do you feel?
Yeah, so I've actually had quite a bit of experience with Whatnot. I mean, I've purchased a lot on Whatnot over probably the last year, and I kind of haven't really bought anything in a few months. But last year's kind of when I feel like I went down the Whatnot rabbit hole, right?
Mhm.
Where you kind of, and it was like one of my one of my favorite YouTube streamers was going to do a Whatnot stream, and they had a $15 promotion. The next thing you know, I get introduced to it and spent way too much money on
Yeah.
Whatnot, frankly. But then I've also done 3 streams as a seller. So I have mixed feelings about it as well. I think on the one side, some of these streamers, like it's a way for people to interact with the streamer and also to interact with each other. Pokemon's an interesting hobby because, like, to the average person out there, if you tell them that you collect Pokemon, you might get a little bit of a weird reaction, right? It's like a lot of my friends in real life are not into Pokemon. I mean, the vast majority of my friends in real life are not into Pokemon, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like I have some friends in real life that are in Pokemon, but just not that many. And so I think for a lot of people, they want some sort of connection.
Mhm.
They crave that connection. It's like, hey, if I'm going to open packs, can I do it with some other people that are also interested and are going to get excited for what I rip? And I think Whatnot is providing that experience for people where they jump on, they feel like they're a part of something bigger. They get to root other people on. They get, everybody's like, whoa, amazing pull when they pull something. It makes them feel good that way. Um, But I think you hit on something really important there, Harrison, is like the impulse control part of Whatnot to me is really scary because I found myself overpaying a lot for singles. Whereas I'm typically the kind of person that does a lot of research. I look up the prices for things. I shop around. I find a really good deal on things often, and Whatnot completely broke that down.
Yep.
Instead, it was just, oh, this is really cool. And, depending on the person that you're streaming with and how good of a salesperson they are, they may be able to really sell that card for a lot more than it is. Some of them apply kind of a pressure like, oh, come on, guys, like this is going for a steal right now and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, but is it really? You go back and you later look at the price and you're like, that's not a steal,
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know. There's some of that stuff going on with singles I think is unfortunate. And then I think with packs, it's so quick and accessible that it can feed into a gambling addiction.
That's
for
correct.
sure. Right. Like if you struggle with that, like, oh, I'll just buy another one. Oh, I didn't get anything. Okay. I'll just buy another one. Whereas if you go to the store, you buy, 4 packs from Walmart back when Walmart used to have packs on the shelf that you could buy, you go home, you open them, you get nothing. You're like, well, okay, well, better luck next time. Right. You don't get back in your car, drive back to Walmart, buy 4 more packs and keep doing that over and over until you pull something.
Right.
But Whatnot makes it possible for you to just keep buying more.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you spent more than you meant to. So it's tricky because on the one hand, I think the community aspect and people being able to connect with a creator and have fun, I love that side. But then on the other side, like if you struggle with impulse control, or like a gambling addiction or something like that, I think it can be bad in those ways. So I think you have to approach it with a lot of caution. You got to be very careful. Yeah, I don't know. That's my thoughts, I guess. Oh, one more quick thought. As a seller, I will say it's very hard to get started. I think a lot of people just think, oh, I'm just going to jump on Whatnot. I'm going to make tons of money. The first stream, they will push all kinds of traffic to your stream. And so you'll feel like, wow, I'm getting tons of traffic. This is great. But the second stream, it is going to be rough because it is just crickets. It's crickets. There's no one there. If you have friends or family, man, invite them, get them to show up because that just having like a few people there that stay for a while really helps with retention. Yes, I struggle with that. I will say as a seller, I loved opening packs for other people when I pulled them something awesome, and when I didn't pull them something awesome, I'd try to throw in like an EX card or something cheap just so they got something. But I pulled the Obsidian Flames Charizard for someone, and it was awesome. And then I opened another pack for a kid, so like the parent was on there with their kid, and I pulled the Houndour illustration rare and a Tyranitar EX both in the same pack. And like the kid got way excited, and the parents like in there chatting. It's like those interactions for me are awesome.
Yeah.
Like if Whatnot can find a way to really like bolster that and control some of the downside that we've been talking about, it would be an amazing platform, But anyway, my 2 cents. So
now we can't talk about that part of the culture and stuff, like the rip and shipping and all whatnot, any of that, without talking about how it's most likely helping the market prices stay what it is and not go down at all. There's no correction that can happen because you're going to see 50 sales a day on that product because they need to get that product so they can do their show tomorrow. So like it's going to happen every day. And I'm not trying to place the blame on nobody, just like I don't like people blaming investors and I don't like people blaming anybody for any one thing because there's a lot of stuff going on and there's a lot of cards out there, guys. So but that there's no way to, you can't deny that thousands and thousands, millions of packs getting ripped a month, just consistently without stopping. It's just like in, out, never stops. That's part of the problem. That's one of the reasons that the price will not correct itself. And do you guys think that there's a future for that where we get reasonably priced stuff and people are still able to do rip and shipping? Or do you think that it's on its way out the door? We're seeing the beginning of the end.
I would say if the singles market was dictated on Whatnot, we'd be screwed because of how much people sellers can sell a card for that's
Yeah,
like
that is true.
$20 and it's only worth $5. So
Yeah.
I'm glad on that side that it's not being dictated there.
So
But
eBay,
yeah, no,
don't buy whatnot. No eBay, leave it alone.
Yeah.
Stick with TCG player,
exactly, yeah,
because once they buy it,
right,
the metrics will start going crazy. But yeah, go
right,
ahead. Sorry.
exactly. Yeah, no, but I mean, on the sealed, yeah, I do. I can't really speak to it in terms of like how. I mean, it is obviously. It's like the fact that there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of packs being ripped more through these streams than in buying it in store or whatever. It's
Mhm.
that's just the reality, and so yeah, it is probably inflating the price, which I think is definitely hurtful to the hobby. I think that that is not helping with how much these things cost because I don't want to get into the distributor thing because there's a lot of controversy on all that stuff too. But
Yeah, we'll
yeah, I
talk about
feel
that.
like yeah, it's so I don't know. I think that the amounts there's a part of me that's like, yeah, if a rip and stripper or whatever is doing great and a distributor wants to give them a lot of product to rip, I mean, okay, great. I guess they grinded to do that, but at the same time, I also feel like it's kind of it's kind of getting skewed now because that's not getting access to everyone else. It's just going to some people who want to get it quick. But yeah, it's a little bit hard to kind of decide if, how bad whatnot or TikTok is being to the sealed aspect of everything.
And it also brings up the point of, oh, we know there's going to be some reprints. I mean, I heard rumors of this a little bit ago from somebody who works in North Carolina at the place, and do they even matter? Do reprints even matter now because of this constant machine that's churning them? The reprint, I mean, like I said, we're not even seeing like little corrections here and there. Like, I don't know how to read it anymore because I don't know. There's too many factors, too many moving parts for me. But I'm definitely scared. Do you guys think that the reprints will make a difference on the price?
I
Mm,
think I think right now the market is too hot,
Mm,
unfortunately. I also
yeah.
think that Pokemon probably I don't know. I kind of wonder if these reprints were already planned
I kind of
and
all of this could be planned completely. This could be all them holding back product right now to get the market really hot, and then they're gonna dump it all in. Like we don't know. I don't know how they're doing things. Like there's a lot of controversial conspiracy theories around that kind of stuff, but I don't know, man.
they seem to work like 4 to 6 months out anyway, so it's like
Mhm.
they really can't pivot that fast.
Right.
So it's like, did they plan their reprint around what they thought 6 months ago the demand would be versus what the demand actually is now?
Right.
It's like I think we need like some serious, like massive reprints. More like Chilling Reign, Fusion Strike,
Yeah.
Lost Origin style reprints, Silver Tempest style reprints, where they just dump a ton of booster boxes on the market at the exact same time. But Pokemon's been doing this like with 151, they just trickle fed the market for like a
Yeah.
year and a half. Like they just
Yeah.
kind of here's a little bit, and it keeps the demand going.
Yeah.
And I don't know, they've gotten smart about it, but they need to dump to kind of cool the fire off because I think the flames have gotten out of control at this point. And I think
Yeah.
the rip and ships are definitely increasing that demand. But I think what rip and ships are doing, I don't think that this is like the point of no return. I think if Pokemon prints enough, they can get prices back down.
Yeah.
I do think rip and shipping though it's moving the market faster. So you used to buy a booster box and maybe it took 2 years to start to appreciate in value. Now it's appreciating 6 months,
Right.
until they drop the next reprint. So everything's just moving quicker than it used to because of rip and ships. I think there is a danger if the rip and ship culture for some reason dies
Mhm.
and all of a sudden they ramped up all this production and then it just drops off. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what it's going to look like with that. As an investor, I'm like, that would be awesome because I
Yeah.
would just buy and then hold on for 5-10 years and
Yeah.
I don't care. But for a lot of people that would get burned in that process, it would put a lot of bad taste in people's mouths. So
Absolutely.
I don't know. That's my 2 cents. I should let somebody else talk, but yeah.
Yeah, Mike, what do you think?
Well, I think luckily that's not the world that I'm in and dealing with all of that on a everyday basis.
Yeah, but how is
The
it getting
collector side
cards?
of
Yeah.
me, it's yeah. I mean, so it's right for me as a collector, it's difficult. It's very difficult to get cards. I'm just like everybody else. I don't have
Mhm.
any distro or anything going on. I made a lot of good connections with singles and stuff like that, and that's kind of always been my thing. I'd buy a case of something, whatever I rip, and I don't pull. I'll go out 4 to 5 months after prices kind of take a dip. I'll buy up every single that I need for whether it be the SIR or the illustration, and I'll complete the set. Boom, move on to the next one, and that's kind of what I've done up to Surging Sparks, and then that's kind of where the market started to take its turn. So from a collector standpoint, it sucks, right? I'm feeling it just kind of what everybody else is feeling, but on my end with decks, it really doesn't affect it whatsoever because I'm not going to buy the most expensive card in the set and throw it in a deck anyway. I might for my personal deck, but I'm not going to sell because the price would just be too high and nobody would be able to afford it. So buying your basic EXs or your full arts and trainers and stuff along those lines, those are still readily available every day, right? So it doesn't affect my business side of it whatsoever, really, with the market how it is, thankfully. But from me personally and trying to get sets and continue to collect, that's kind of why I talked earlier about moving over to Japanese. It's just it's difficult to get cards. And granted, you can still get cards, right? Any set you want, you can. You could pay that price that rip and shippers are charging per pack, or you could pay online for 3x whatever the box is that you want. But that's not how I roll. Because when I first started, it's like when Evolving Skies was boom popping, right? And even like Umbreon was up for $500, and then sure enough, later on, everything dropped back down. The market kind of settled, and then I bought my Moonbreons at $250 a pop. So everything will come and go and in waves, and that's always kind of how it's been. I think this one will hold longer than in the past, but at some point, somewhere, people are gonna run out of money or not be able to get product, and something is bound to change. That's just kind of how it always happens.
The economy is definitely making it look like and there could be some people that are going to be paying off some debts from from last year's spending at the end of the year. Well, I mean, not just Pokemon. People went crazy. People
Oh,
went out and
sure,
bought a
yeah.
bunch of stuff because they didn't know what this year's going to look like with the elections and the tariffs, and so people went and bought a bunch of stuff just in case the prices went up, and now they're paying back. You know what I mean? So our economy looked like it was doing good at the end of the year last year, but the whole world's economy was tanking. So like and we're the biggest importer, so we're going to see that last. Like so. I think that just slowly catching up, and now people are realizing, yeah, we got the raises that we picketed for, that we got that we got mad and unionized to get, but now we got less hours, so we're actually making less money than before we got our raises, and that's what's happening all across America right now. And then you got layoffs, and so like all that stuff's about to catch up, and it's going to get even worse when the people in the industrial side of things and the manufacturing side of things get laid off after they get done ramping up all the production and these tariffs kick in. So there's going to be a lot of layoffs. A lot of people are going to stop spending money. Like one of the biggest things that the reasons I was asking you about is because like I see these people pumping these IRs and stuff, and like one day Drowsy's this and one day Drowsy's that, and like I know you're not putting like that in your deck, but it makes me think that maybe sometimes a card that you do have in one of your decks. So what if that one gets pumped and then that's what I mean is like, is there a scenario
Well,
where you end up having to pay
go
more?
ahead.
You know what I mean, and then charge more to the consumer because that have to pass that to us, the people that buys your decks in order to make a profit. So to me, it just feels like that even the rip and ship and the inflating the price of the singles and all of that stuff could carry over into that. So it's interesting to hear that it doesn't, because in my head it would, so
the
that's
the biggest thing. So there's very few examples of when it does, and it's mostly it has to do with the playability of the card, right? It doesn't have to do with who's trying to chase something down. It's
Mhm.
like common trainers, right, or uncommon trainers, they should be 25 cents or less, right? But then there's your Arvins that are in every single deck,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So now everybody's buying 4 copies of Arvin. So now Arvin, an uncommon card that should be no more than 50 cents, is more than all the basic EXs in whatever that set, or Obsidian Flames or whatever set. So there's the rare scenarios like that, but overall as a whole, not really. It's really up to me and what I want to include in the deck as far as how much is going to cost me on the back
Right.
end. If I want to keep it simple and just basic EXs, they're kind of consistent.
Mhm.
You know, again, playability. Your Raging Bolt, your Teal Mask until he was re-released in another set.
Yep.
They'll be a little bit more pricey, right? Like your $4 or $5 cards, but for the most part, everything kind of stays simple and flatlined and how I like it. Thankfully, again, it's
I
really just
think
that illustration. Or whenever I want to spice it up, is what costs me more.
personally, if you mix the art with the collector side with the deck building side and what I'm hearing here, that proves to me that they do their research. They're making sure that the cards that are going to be pumping and stuff like that don't hurt the game, and that there's cards in there to make sure that the game won't be hurt. You know what I mean? So that to me
Yeah.
proves that they have people doing that. That like I know that there's somebody
Good
testing the
point. Yeah.
stuff to make sure. But I don't know. It moves on to like I only got a couple more things. I don't want to keep you guys all night. I got a couple more like things I want to talk about, and then just a couple questions, and then we can go from there. But this MJ Holdings situation, where they're the biggest distributor pretty much, and they have subsidiary companies selling their product on Walmart's website. I was wondering what y'all think about a distributor selling at market price directly to consumers in the guise of a subsidiary. Like their address is literally the same for the companies. It's they're not
Yeah.
even trying to hide it, and it's I know that there's a lot of distro talk. Brian, you said something about it earlier. There's a lot of controversial talk over that. I don't want to piss no distros off either. I'm trying to understand what's going on here, and this definitely looks pretty scummy to me. Um, I don't know. I was just wondering what your guys' thought was on that.
I'll
I
go
think
first
in
just because
oh
I'm
yeah, go ahead.
very
Yeah,
simple. Yeah, just
yeah,
very. I think it's fucked up. That's
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
really my point. Because just because I don't have too much, but from the outside looking in, and after I kind of did my little research behind it and made sure it was legitimate, I was like, wow, okay. I
yeah.
mean, I guess everybody's got to make their dollar, but it doesn't. It's sketchy
Right.
to say the least.
And I'm thinking Pokemon has contracts with them, so they can't really punish them. There's something in those contracts probably that protects their right to sell it how the fuck they want to. You know what I'm saying? So they're probably like, whatever, buddy, we're making money right now. So like that's what I think's happening because otherwise I feel like Pokemon would step in because that's something that looks bad on them. That's egg on their face right now. And they look like they're part of this system that I don't think they would want to be a part of personally. Not the brand that they've tried to build anyway. I mean, I know they don't care about
Especially
shit.
long term,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
would think, right?
Right. Absolutely. So first off, what are other guys' thoughts on that? And what what do you think Pokemon could do? Let's act like they don't probably have some kind of contract clause. What could they do to change that situation?
yeah. I think I remember when I was watching the this is kind of a small rabbit hole. When I was watching the Pokemon Day
Mhm.
presentation, and they had the president on there, and they also had the CFO on there. I was like, this is the guy that's pumping the market right now.
Yeah, yeah.
He looked like a modern day gangster. Anyways,
Yeah, he
aside
did.
from that, someone at Pokemon Company is really good at economics, and they know what's happening in the market.
Yep.
And I do think that at the end of the day, what's happening is everyone is trying to find someone to blame. And I think what I'm more worried about is someone found about the whole MJ Holdings thing, which is, yeah, I think it's not right. But then now what's happening is someone found out MJ Holdings. There's another set of information that says, hey, they're not a distributor. Let's not call them out. Let's be careful. And everyone's now the community is fighting over what they're actually doing. And
Yeah.
so I think this whole thing of distributors, it's definitely dividing the community as a whole, which is not good. Because now we're arguing about things that aren't the actual argument of we can't get product to people, you know?
Right.
And I think that these distributors, I think that Pokemon companies should step in for sure. And they should have some sort of like a sort of governor of how they're handling and dealing with stuff, especially if they're getting exposed. But I don't know. I mean, it's like I'm not running a annual $11 billion company, so it's kind of like when you know what's at stake, it's kind of like, do you care if there's a little bit of controversy that's going to die off in a couple of weeks? Because
Right.
no one cared about MJ Holdings 2 weeks ago
No, and the
until a
truth of it
little.
is that this stuff has been going on for years. This is not new. This stuff has been going on for years, and so like people, you're right. We're mad. We got our pitchforks. We got our torches. We're looking for Frankenstein's monster, and somebody's got to be him. And right now it's NJ Holdings, and tomorrow it'll be a whatnot streamer, and the next day it'll be some guy at a 7-Eleven in Japan. But like it's going to be somebody. You're right, absolutely. That is a great point, and I love that the first place you went was your conscience. It was like I don't want to. You know what I mean? That speaks to your character, in my opinion. It's not the first place my
Yeah.
mind went, and I feel bad now. But it's like, no, I mean that's good. Humble people. That makes you a good person. But like, I don't know. I think that's one of the reasons you're blowing up so fast. People can see that about you, you know. And I wanted to dive more into the media side of things too, and have you, maybe give some tips on like how people could make their stuff look a little bit more professional in 5 minutes, or something they could do. Like I remember you told me to like have a corner behind me, and like you told me some things about lighting, and just those things. If I implemented those, they would help. You know what I mean? So I wanted to get into those kind of things. I don't want to spend all our time talking doom and gloom, but I do want to hear what you think about it, Blake. What you think about that situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, Pokemon does have to take responsibility for a lot of this because they're at the top and they're the ones with the printers, you know.
Yep.
Um, you know, I think in general they probably should have seen more of this demand coming, especially with TCG Pocket coming out. Like they know what they're releasing, when they're releasing it. They know the later sets in an era usually do well. Like they probably should have seen that there would be a demand bump. Maybe they wouldn't know that it would be this crazy, but they probably could have had more product ready than they did, I think. And on the distributor side of things, I think that they need to probably rein in their distributors a little bit, and probably work on controlling them. Now, maybe for contracts, I think those kind of business contracts, I'm not an expert on them, but I think those usually renew every so many years. So maybe the solution is that the next time they renew, they get more strict about those contracts.
Right.
Maybe that means that they even have to send auditors to these distributors locations to like count product and check things out and see where the stuff's moving around, where it's going. But I think that they do need to be careful because it's like what you get right now where, okay, you get a Surging Sparks reprint and the distributors are selling the boxes at like anywhere between like 180 and 200 to LGSs. What frustrates me about that is not only is the distributor making truckloads of money off of the process and still leaving that tiny margin for the LGS, who's already kind of starved for product as it is, because all of these, all these distributors have like nothing in stock. So LGSs are starved for product as it is.
Yep.
So now they're making the same margin off of less product, which hurts their bottom line. And then on top of that, they're really passing all of the risk onto the LGS. Because if the market collapses after the distributor sells the product to the LGS, well, the LGS paid 200, and if the box price of Surging Sparks goes to 160, now the LGS is losing money, and they have to fire sell the box and take a hit. And the distributor made tons of money off of it. I think that's wrong too. I think there needs to be more of a protection than just, okay, we'll sell you this product at wholesale only the first wave. I think Pokemon needs to make it like, maybe it's the first year or something like that, or the first, some sort of time period where it's like, if we're giving you this product as a distributor, you have to pass on wholesale price to the LGS, because it's not fair that the distributor is creating additional risk for the LGS, who has a lot less capital, a lot less resources than the distributor does. And the Japanese distributors do the exact same thing, right? They will charge just enough to like leave a tiny margin for any of the US sellers that are buying the product from them. So it's the same problem with Japan and with English product. But I think Pokemon needs to get more in their business and control that a little better. I think one way too is like, the whole MJ Holdings thing. I didn't really follow that story specifically, but this is why it's really important to have multiple distributors. Make sure that you're feeding lots of them. So if one of them gets out of hand or is misbehaving, so to speak, maybe you don't give them as much product and you funnel more of that product to the other distributors, right? It's a way to kind of create competition in the market to say, hey, we're going to reward the distributors that take care of LGSs, that take care of Target, Walmart, all these businesses that are upstanding, that have character. We're going to reward them with more product. You know what I mean? So I don't know, just a couple thoughts there, but I think it's unfortunate especially because it's like I love my LGS. I want to see them succeed. I hate to see them just making these tiny margins and the distributor making all the big bucks and the LGS having to take all of the risk. I don't think that's right.
And part of it too, you're making some excellent points here. I think anybody listening is like, okay, yeah, I didn't even think about that. But I think another thing too is like, yeah, they're making these little margins, but think about it. They're having to charge, like right now, we talked about Journey Together being $200, upwards of 220, 230 bucks in places. And they're only making like 18, 15, $18 a box. They're not making a bunch of money. Like you said, that's because of the distributors giving it to them at an inflated price. They're deciding the price of the market at this point. They're like saying, "Hey, we're gonna sell it to you at this. Well, I got to make this much to keep the lights on, so I'm gonna charge this much. This is the price. Then you've decided it."
Well, I will say the first wave, they always have to give it to the LGSs at wholesale cost, which is usually like 90 or 93 or 92. It's somewhere right in that range. Some of the really big stores get it like $88 a box or whatever. So the stores will get that price for the first wave, but then the question you have to ask is, did they even release all of it in the first
they're
wave?
holding
Are they
back.
holding some back? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
this is where it gets into like Pokemon probably needs auditors to go to these distributors' facilities and look over their books and stuff. Like that's probably where we're getting, unfortunately. And or Pokemon just has to dump so much that economically you can't keep the price elevated like that. I don't know. I don't know what the solution exactly is. And of course, Pokemon's got brighter people there than me. But yeah, I mean, that is one thing to note is that theoretically the LGS should be getting that wholesale price on that first wave. But if they're not getting very much, they're going to probably want to sell at market to try to compensate for the fact that, okay, well, before I sold 100 boxes, now I'm only selling 10.
Yep.
Okay, well, how am I gonna pay my, you know what I'm saying? So it's like if you're getting less product, you almost have to make a greater margin just to keep the lights on.
Yeah, it's awful, and it makes the store look bad, and people talk ill of the store, but it's like it's this
Yep.
situation they're caught in. And I mean, people like us that we're trying to start businesses and grow businesses in this space, we don't have distribution yet, or maybe we do, or what, you know what I mean? Like we're trying to get to that point, and it's kind of scary seeing it. And I hope that people are paying attention and learning and seeing how these things are working, seeing how they're operating. That's why I'm glad I got you guys on here to talk about these different perspectives. And like you're really, Blake, you're really minded toward that investment side and understanding how these things work. Brian is literally going out in the field and trying his hand at every bit of it, and like when it comes to the competitive side of things, Mike's over here to answer those questions. And I think that that's a good mix of, we're all collectors here at the end of the day. But what we do here in the space is different. And that brings me to one of our questions is like, how, if you could do something differently in what you did, like with the content creating for you, Blake, with the other guys with your business, if you could do something bit differently, just starting out, what would that be? Brian, you start.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of that right now.
Yeah.
Because it kind of grew so fast that
Yep.
it kind of, my audience made my niche for me.
Mhm.
And so I think my hot take on my hot take is, if I did something differently, it would have been the way I made content, because in my mind I made content to start a Pokemon card business. Then because now I got connected with amazing people like you all who are all in kind of in that same space, but the content was intended to drive sales. So it is in a sense because I'm getting my name out there, but I think like if I were to do something different, I would really think about like for example, on my main channels, I like to show the collecting side, the behind the scenes side of my life, not just I made a sale today, go to my website. I feel like it's kind of boring to me.
Mhm.
But the really successful people are just talking about the business,
Yeah.
are just talking about what they're doing, which is not bad, but it's kind of hard for me being a collector and being someone who just likes to show behind the scenes of my life that isn't just about grinding and selling cards.
Yeah.
It's about collecting ingredients,
Yeah, I
or
love
going
that.
to a local LGS, right? And so I feel like it's hard because there's the selling aspect of it where it's like okay, great. I had a viral video about me complaining about scalpers and collecting greedents, but is that driving sales to help me, like from the content side, you have
Mhm.
to kind of think about all of that of what are you putting your energy towards. And so that's kind of been a difficult thing for me of being like, all right, well, I gotta kind of go hard in the paint with other things. That way I'm not, just sitting on product and, I have to actually move stuff and scale it and grow.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now, is just trying to figure out how to be like me, but also know that I am trying to build a business and content is the way that you do that. And so I have to figure out a way to be like, yeah, I'm here, internet. By
Mhm.
the way, I'm a really chill person who is normal like you, but I also sell Pokemon cards. So
Yeah.
go buy my stuff,
Yeah.
So it's definitely a hard balance.
Yeah, I'm in the same place as you. Like, I mean, you're a lot more you got a lot more notoriety than I do. I don't mean that way. I mean like that I'm trying to do the whole business thing and the content thing to drive traffic to the site. But I'm also an authentic person. Like I want to be genuine and I don't want to just sell on YouTube. Like I want to have fun. I want to experiment with different formats. I want to meet people. I want to have conversations. I want to learn. I want to do things that I enjoy doing and have fun doing it. And you're right, the most successful people do it a certain way, but maybe there's another way. I don't know. I enjoyed your answer
Yeah.
because once again, it just it reeks of just conscious. Like you're self-conscious, like in a good way. Like you want to make sure that you're being and doing and appropriating the right things in your space. Yeah, you had
Mm.
viral videos. I love the greeting thing, by the way. That was hilarious. But
I'm not trying to pump up the market, guys. There's
yeah,
no secret on Greedent. Okay. We
that
just
was
went
good.
to an LGS. They had one of those ETBs full of like dollar and $3 rares. And then we saw Greedent. I was like, how have I not seen this Greedent VMAX before?
Was it the
Yeah.
Ultra?
So we bought it.
Oh, VMAX.
No, it was just a regular full art V,
VMAX.
I
Okay.
think. And I was like, this is
Mhm.
the dorkiest and derpiest Pokemon. How have I not looked at Greedent? And then my wife and I were just like, I think I want to get every Greedent possible. So I'm not trying to pump the market.
I get it.
People would say, are you trying to pump the market right now? Something I
Yeah.
don't
It was
know.
hilarious
Greedent
though.
is cute. Like,
You had them like
yeah,
on full
anyways,
yeah.
yeah.
That was a good video. But like do you feel like the stuff that you've done in the business and the things you've had to face and the price hike, like everything that you do, because you like I said, you've been in so many things. Do you think that has changed any of your perspective of the hobby itself? Or do you think you're still exactly the same person when dealing with cards?
Yeah, I kind of touched on a little bit in my last video of there were some moments where the cards did just turn into dollar signs for me.
Mhm.
And like for example, like whenever my wife and I rip packs, I'm always like, okay, everything like she wants to keep one of every card in the PC. I'm like,
Mhm.
okay, yeah, all right, we pulled that cool SAR, let's put in the PC. But more recently, I've been like, all right, you know what? I'm gonna everything I buy is going back into the business. That way it can just keep fueling it. And so that kinda changed a little bit, which kinda a little part of me died inside
Yep.
because, we wanna be able to keep one of every copy of every card that we like in our personal collections, and
Mhm.
so I had to kind of, like, force myself to be like, I am going to make sure that I am collecting because I actually enjoy this, not because I'm seeing opportunities to grow the business. Now in the beginning, because I'm starting out, I am trying to find every avenue to pour every dollar I can into it to help it scale faster. But that is something that did change. That was kind of a reality check for me of like not getting so focused on figuring out ways to scale faster because I'm a very impatient person. So part of me is I know that, I'm gonna have to wait 2 or 3 years to make this actually matter if I want to
Mhm.
do it that long.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to do it. So I had to kind of do some reality checks of
Mhm.
being like, all right, this isn't gonna be an overnight thing as much as I want it to be. So I have to kind of just be patient with not trying to force sales or let go of things don't want to let go of because I need to make money off of it. And so yeah, some of that's kind of changed a bit. But overall, I have had to kind of approach everything from a very like profitable standpoint of
Mhm.
what do I invest into? Do I buy a bunch of sealed now or whatever? But yeah,
I appreciate like the honesty behind your answer. Like I do appreciate that because you could have
yeah,
went anyway with that, but you're like, I do feel like because that's the truth, and I want people to realize that because there's a lot of people out here that may or may not be watching this or whatever that want to do what you're doing or think they want to do what you're doing or you know what I'm saying. So it helps to hear the truth. It's like, hey, this. I'm like you and your wife. I like to keep one of everything too, and I've still not
Mm.
listed my singles on my site. Everybody's like still saying, "Hey, man, you've been saying you're gonna do it," I'm like, yeah, but I'm gonna have to say goodbye to it, and that's just me being a hoarder and obsessive collector. But it really, I don't. There's a part of me I don't want to see die, but there's a part of me that needs to. So like, there's a you have to differentiate. So like that part of me that's hoarding cards I shouldn't be hoarding, that part needs to kind of lose some life. But the part of me that enjoys collecting, I need to find ways to celebrate that. And I just want people that maybe want to do what you do to hear your words and think about what that might mean to them. Um, Now, Mike, how would you do things differently in your business? It's a lot different. Your business is a lot different than what we do. It's different than pretty much every other business I know of in the Pokemon space. So like, I don't know how it takes to start, to get notoriety, to start selling decks, to get people to want to buy them. I don't know what the process looks like, but what what would you do differently knowing what you do now?
I mean, I'm kind of dealing with it, and thanks for the invite because this is part of the first step. It's just getting out there, right? I've been doing it for about a year and a half, and it's doing a lot better than I thought it would. But I know that it has a lot more potential than where I'm at currently,
Mm,
and it's stepping out. Maybe it's stepping in front of the camera. Maybe it's just live streaming me playing TCG Online or
yeah.
TCG Pocket. Maybe it's just live streaming while I'm building decks and having people request while I'm live streaming, that type of deal. But it's every deck I build. Obviously, I take my photos, I list it, and I take a video. And not every deck gets posted on my social media accounts, right? So
Right.
it's being more consistent with posting the videos, and if I would have done it from the jump, maybe after that first half year, I'd be where I'm at currently, and I have this extra year to grow even further. So it's being more consistent with social media, with posting,
Hmm.
with recording, live streaming, and just doing all of the above. And I'm still dealing with that. And this is kind of hopefully my first step to multiple more of either jumping on with you guys or being more comfortable recording a video and getting in front of the camera. But whatever it may be, it's consistency with social media because at the end of the day, that's free marketing, that's free advertising,
Hmm.
that's what brings everybody in.
Definitely.
Thankfully, before I started this, I've been doing this is I think my 11th year selling on eBay and not Pokemon related, just kind of selling on eBay for a while. So thankfully, I kind of had that feedback, but it transitioned from me selling everything under the sun to now it's more Pokemon centered, right? So
Hmm.
I got to decide either to keep that underneath that same umbrella of finders keepers. That's kind of the title for everything, or to go out the box and build this brand and be all in on it. And even past social media, it's I get it. It's time, right? Everybody is kind of limited on time, but if I really want to continue it, I need to get out at every tournament I can. I need to get in front of people with my merchandise. I need to
Hmm.
play in tournaments and move up in rankings and show that hey, look, like I actually am about this
Yeah.
day in day out, and this is what I do. So
Right.
I think it's just taking the title of the company out the box and getting myself out of my box and
Nice.
being more outgoing and just kind of exploring the possibility and posting as much as I can. I like I said, I'm still dealing with it even though I'm a year and a half in, and it's just getting consistent with it.
Do
I
you
think
see?
I think a live stream would work really well for you. By the way, you're well spoken, like you're
Mhm.
very clear. You're detailed. Like I could see a live stream where people can ask questions about the decks, how they work. You can explain strategies. Like you'd probably have a blast doing it because you're already thinking about those things anyway.
Yeah,
And you get the chance to teach people, kind of mentor them. That could be a great avenue to get your name out there and have fun doing
I
it. You know.
I'd watch the crap out of
thank
that.
you.
Just letting you know, I'd watch the crap out of that. And, I'd have questions,
Appreciate
I'd
it.
be in the comments. But, I do wanna ask you, so you said you've sold on eBay about 11 years. Do you think that's something that you will always be doing, or are you considering maybe branching out and making your own site? Would you recommend the eBay thing? Do the fees kill you? Would you prefer to just have that 3% fee over that 15% fee? Like, I mean, or is just they're marketing because you said you got to get yourself out there, and what you're paying them for essentially is to market your product. So they're doing that,
Yeah.
and so I mean, it's worth it to you maybe to pay the 15% in that business. Maybe that's perfect. I don't know. I'm asking you because you do have the insight. I know there's people right now that could be listening to this that would weigh in their options. Should I go with this? Should I go with that? And you can provide a little bit of information on it. So what do you think about the eBay and possibly maybe doing your own site one day or
Yeah, I mean, I should have been doing both, in all honesty. Right, being out there and having eBay and having my own site would only help. It wouldn't hurt
Mhm,
because you could always bring people from that eBay description to go to your website and then just kind of take the business completely. I think I would still continue to do both. And even though eBay's fees are a killer at the end of the day, and obviously I charge it accordingly and so on
mhm,
and so forth, but um, I mean, it's eBay, right?
right.
Everybody knows them.
Yep.
It's exposure. So like you mentioned, that is what I'm paying for.
Mhm,
15% is a chunky fee, but at
mhm,
the same time, I know my site isn't going to bring millions of people possibly looking past my cards day in and day out.
right.
Even at my best, I don't think I would be at that point. So I think eBay's still going to be in my toolbox, and I'm still going to use it. It's just more so learning how to bring them over from eBay to the website once I eventually do get it up and running. I'm just not that savvy, in all honesty. That's probably why I haven't put my own site together, especially because the decks are constantly changing. Right? If I had 20 quantities of this specific deck, I feel like it'd be a lot easier. But since I'm like building 10, 15 decks per week and listing them and kind
Mhm,
of going through that wave, I don't know how to do that. So it would definitely be something I would have to learn in order to do that. But with eBay, it's simple. I post the pictures,
mhm,
put the description, and boom, it's listed and good to go. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's the exposure. So I would probably consistently do both. And if people haven't used eBay before, I mean, I would definitely recommend to give it a test run.
mhm,
You got everything, and people just coming for singles might, because you put in the description like what cards are included. So somebody might be looking for, say, that Charizard or that Dragon Pool, whatever the case may be, and it would pull it to my deck because I'm paying for that extra ad. And now they're like, "Oh, I didn't necessarily need a deck. I don't play, but like this is cool because some of these cards might add up to what that price point is of the deck. So I could
right.
get a deck and still get these cards included, type of deal."
Yep.
So I definitely think I've gotten business that way, and
Mhm,
just like the connections, man. I just people buying my decks and then reaching out like, "Hey, I want to find a way to connect with my son. He wants to play Pokemon. Like, what
mhm,
decks would you recommend?" Or like, I won this tournament. You're using your deck. Like
yeah.
that connection and places I've sold to in the world that probably my website wouldn't sell to. Like I learned about countries I didn't know even
Yeah,
existed.
yeah,
And it's just building those relationships with that people is just awesome. That I wouldn't get that same exposure elsewhere. So
yeah.
I
That's
definitely would recommend anybody who hasn't done it to sell on eBay for sure. At least give it a test trial.
that's a really good point. I talked about that a little bit on episode 1 of Roundtable. Is like that I went about it the wrong way. I started backwards. Like I literally started a site before I had a following, before I started a YouTube, before I did anything because I just like doing it. Like I wanted to do it. And I mean, I'm not the best at like doing this stuff, but I know how it works. And I'd be willing to work with you if you wanted to get on there and try, like just playing with it. You know, you don't have to pay or launch nothing unless you want to. You know, it's like you don't unless you don't have to pay anything. You can build it for free. So I mean, just getting in there and playing with it and learning it, it can be pretty fun. We can do that here in the Discord anytime. But I like the idea of it. You can link your eBay to your website, and they can both feed off of each other. Which is what the point I'm getting at is that if I would have started with eBay and built up a following and built up an approval rating, and then did my site and link those two together, now I have a following. I start doing YouTube, it
Yeah,
links it all together. Now I have something that's marketable. That's that's like you said. I got them doing something. I'm doing something. It all brings it together. See, if I would have done it that way, then it would have been right. Now, see, I'm having some difficulty because I went about it ass backwards. So, like, you're absolutely right. eBay is a great place to start. I don't care who you are. All the greats started there. Most of them, anyway. I think everybody except for Danny Phantom, but they all started there. But um, I don't know. Yeah, great points. I love to hear your insight, and that's like the most positive I've heard anybody talk about selling on eBay. So that's pretty cool. Um, Blake, I do want to talk to you a little bit too. I want to ask you the same thing, but I'm asking a little differently because you kind of in the space differently. You're a big time collector. You know, obviously you follow the markets and stuff like that. Is there something you wish you would have been more like hip to coming into this? Like something that it takes obviously a longer time to learn. Like, what is something you wish you would have known back then?
Interesting. Well, real quick, I just want to chime on one thing on the eBay because I haven't really talked about it on my channel, but I have also sold for years on eBay as well,
Oh,
kind
okay.
of in and out. I'm a top seller on eBay, so I have a pretty high feedback rating. I've sold a lot of items, and
Nice.
I will agree that it's a phenomenal platform for connecting you. Just especially if you have like an item that's really hard to find a buyer for. Like
Yeah.
I've graded some cards that are like low pop, like hard to find a buyer for. eBay's a wonderful spot for that. It's like it's going to be the go-to place for like those like less liquid cards as well. And also they handle a lot of financial stuff for you that
Mm.
they just make it simple. They pay out you really fast. So there's a lot of pros, I'll just say, on the eBay front. But to answer your question, so if I'm understanding you correctly, you're saying like as a collector, what's some things I had maybe wished I had done differently kind of when I was getting started out? Is
That
that kind of what
that
you're thinking? Or
That and investing, yeah. Like I know that
yeah,
you know, you have
yeah.
a lot of knowledge on the markets, and it probably took a little bit to gain that knowledge. But what is something, maybe you've noticed over the years, patterns that you've spotted, something that you wish you would have been armed with a little sooner that might have put your positions a little bit further ahead than what they are now? Because there's people listening that might wanna hear that little tidbit.
Yeah, I think one of the really big things is uh not getting caught in the hype and understanding cycles, right?
Yeah.
There's been cards that I've bought, there's been even sealed that I've bought, but it's mostly been cards I've bought at just the wrong time. I
Mm,
got bit really hard from the Starbirth Charizard, which is basically the Brilliant Stars Charizard, but
mhm.
in Japanese. I bought that one like literally at the absolute peak of the market. uh, I bought like several Japanese Umbreon Vs from EV Heroes
Mm,
in PSA 10s. And at the time, I even bought them through Buy. I bought them with 15% off. I like shopped for low prices. Like I was undercutting the market at the time, but because I bought them when the card was hyped, like I ended up losing money on them. And I bought them as like more of a speculative play because I kind of I'm to a point now where I view sealed as more of like a safe longer term investment. Singles are a lot more speculative, and so sometimes I speculate them and try different things out. But if the card is already like hyped up and everybody's looking at it, you miss the play. It's too late. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
go find something else. I mean, that's one thing I wish I had understood at the beginning. And it's fine. I think sometimes when you make mistakes, those are like the best lessons you learn because you'll never forget them. Um, Another lesson that I learned too is it's like if something is too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah.
I've been scammed before. This was a long time ago, but I got scammed buying off of Buy. I bought Watsy, shining cards from Japan, and of course they were fake, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Right.
and the pictures looked a little off, but like I was, it's again, oh, the price was so good. It's
You
like
wanted to be
back in that
true.
day,
Yeah.
it's so stupid, and it's like looking back, like can't believe that I even fell for
Yeah.
that now.
Yeah.
But at the time, it's just like you get that kind of hunger that you want to
Yeah.
either get a really good deal or you want to make some money off something, and it's really good to just like take a step back, maybe sleep on it, maybe go ask some other people about it. But like some of those like too good to be true deals usually are.
Yeah.
If it's a cheap card and it's if something shows up on eBay and it's like 25% of the normal price and it's a $10 card, okay, well, maybe snap buy that, right? But like I'm talking about bigger cards, bigger things where it seems like it's just too good to be true. I would be careful there. And yeah, the hype cycle is huge. Like now I'm to the point where I've gotten myself to the point where it's like I wait for cards to settle down. I don't buy them right out the gate anymore like I used to. I've had my eye on that melodic from that melodic SIR. I call
Love
it
it.
melodic. I guess everybody else calls it Milo Tick.
Yeah.
But SIR
Call
from
it
Sweet
melodic
Green
too.
Sparks.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. from Surging Sparks. That's my favorite card in the
I
set,
love
right?
that.
Love
Yeah,
that card.
mine too.
Love that card. I want that in a PSA 10. I've been watching the prices. It's like they've trickled down a little bit, but I'm like, man, I don't know. Surging Sparks is a $260 box. Pokemon never lets boxes go to that price so soon.
Yeah,
They're gonna reprint this set more,
Yeah.
not just this wave. I think it's gonna be more. So
yeah,
I'm just like, I just gonna chill. I'm just gonna wait. And it's like I think that learning to have patience is really important in this hobby.
that's true.
Whether you're an investor, whether you're a collector, like you really have to learn to have patience. And it takes a while to develop, but yeah, that's
I
maybe
actually,
maybe a couple tips for people
I
there.
actually pulled that Milotic in Super Electric Breaker in
Hold
Japanese.
it.
Yeah, and I got it.
Oh,
It's at PSA right now, so hopefully we get a 10.
sweet.
I'm hoping for the best.
Congrats.
I do want
Good
to
for
ask
you,
you
man.
too, like, because I mean, me and you started like a week and a half before me on YouTube, and
Okay.
I just wondering, as a new creator, as somebody I mean, you've been pretty consistent, like as far as putting out content. You seem pretty busy at it, and I enjoy it all. Um, what's your experience been about? Like what's it been like as a creator, as somebody new starting and getting to the point where you are now, a little bit, maybe a little bit more comfortable, or what's that like? There's people out there right now that might want to try it, that are scared to try it, and maybe something you say could wake something in them or something. I just want to know what your
Yeah.
experience has been like.
Yeah, yeah. Well, first of all, if you're thinking about doing it, I would just get started. Like I thought about it for probably a year prior, maybe even longer,
Mhm.
and just never did it. I can be kind of a perfectionist sometimes about things, which you wouldn't be able to tell watching my videos because they can be kind of rough sometimes. But it's like, I think I thought that I had to have everything perfect before
Yep,
I started.
me too.
And I finally just bit it off and just went after it. And I couldn't believe that I was actually getting subscribers, and it's like
Mhm.
people actually want to watch this. I think that was surprising to me. And I think one thing I've really learned from doing it is that the more real and genuine you are, oftentimes the better the video goes. Not always. Sometimes you're going to talk about a topic that just doesn't land with
Mhm.
people. But some of my best videos have just been the least edited actually, and have been me just being myself. Probably because people I think want to feel more connected to a real human
Mhm.
versus too much polish. That being said, I think I could work on my production quality a lot better. I could have a better camera, better lighting. A lot of those things I think could improve a lot. But that's something I think out there for people just getting started. If they're worried about having like this perfect script and perfect format, I mean, some of my favorite creators just get in front of a camera and talk.
Yeah, me mine too.
And I think as an adult, like I love like podcasts and I just love listening to people talk about something I'm interested in,
Mhm.
whether it's Pokemon, whether it's macroeconomics, whether it's whatever topic it is. I like to hear people talk about it and
Mhm.
and think about it. And I think that kind of podcast style YouTube, there's a great space for that right now. They're doing really well. So if you're worried about having all the editing down, I'd say forget all that. Just like start simple, just get started, slowly improve, slowly work on, learning something new here and there. Um, yeah, I think one thing for me that I really need to work on to improve my channel is maybe have a little bit more consistent theme, more consistent thumbnails. I'm kind of a little all over the place right now. I could really work on improving that. What people are seeing is a lot of like, this is how I'm currently enjoying the hobby, and
Yeah,
it's like, that may be good. There's probably a certain extent where I need to be a little bit more organized and think more about, okay, what am I producing that is going to be helpful to my audience? What does my audience need to
right.
hear right now? Or what's something that's going to be useful to them? My best video was a graded card return where I went over every slab, talked about why I thought every single one got the grade it did.
Mhm.
And it got a tremendous reception, I think, because people thought it was useful, right? They're like, this is the first video I've ever had that explained like, why they think they got this grade and
Right.
breaking everything down and showing close-ups and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't really sit there and think, what's the absolute, most valuable video that I can make for my
Right.
my viewers. But I think I need to spend more time thinking about what's valuable to my viewers, what's going to be useful for them, and probably creating some of those videos. So a little all over the place there, but
No, I agree.
maybe
I,
that's
I
something.
I face a lot of the same issues, and I mean, I practically beg my audience to tell me what would give them value. Please, please, I feel bad if I'm not. I want to talk about these things. I want to do these things. I love making content, but I want to make sure it's content that provides a value. And so, like, I think we're all trying to figure that out. And I love that. I think that journey is important, and we all have to learn to love that journey because once we get there, what's the goal then? You know what I'm saying? So, like, I
Yeah.
think that I wanna fall in love with, like, that. I don't wanna just have the best camera tomorrow. I don't wanna you know what I mean? I want it to learn and it be a process that now I understand it and I can help other people with it. So, like,
Yeah.
excellent points there. I mean, yeah, that's I mean, pretty much what I expected you to give me is, like, that's all of that is truthful, and anybody who's looking to do it could just listen to what y'all have said here today, and I think mull it over and come to a decision. Um, Brian, I do want to give you a chance to kind of just a couple minutes. I don't want to put you to work here, but to maybe give us some tips on how, because I mean, yeah, first off, clean the room. Yeah, I know. I got a bunch of junk back here because I'm moving, but uh, yeah, like how can anybody new to the space maybe look like maybe up their production quality a little bit with cheaper or whatever. Like how can they do that easy as possible? Maybe look a little bit more like they know what they're doing.
Got my notebook
Yeah.
ready.
No, you're good. I could do a mini masterclass as fast as I can. Oh, here, like I said, I'll do a mini masterclass. Let me do something real quick so you guys can see. It's not that fancy. I literally have 2 lights out of my room, so I'm gonna turn off the backlight. That's gone. We had the little one piece light there. Then I have 1 bar light here.
Okay.
You now can see now is nothing to look at. I could probably turn on my room light, and let me do that real quick so you guys can see maybe how ugly the room is. But
Yeah, his lighting's always on point though.
He's a genius, dude.
oh, that's the room lighting, okay? So that's the main overhead light right behind me. So
Yeah.
right now there's no light hitting my face. So it's gonna look a little bit, not as flattering. So that's why I like to have a light. For me, I'll go turn on because I don't think you guys want to see this. So let's turn this back on.
No, but
Um,
it's a great explanation because you guys can see the difference. Just the little bit, just the light made. Like that's it's crazy to me.
So there's that light back there. So basically, I'm sitting on my desk, and what I have is I have a light bouncing off of my white wall to give it a softer look. So if I were to have my light directly hit me,
Yeah,
now I'm all blown out. Now it looks all washed out.
that's my
So what
problem.
I do is I like to have light bounce. Everyone's trying something now. So I like to have light bounce off and not directly hit me. So it's a really white light. I think I dropped on my Discord because someone was asking me, "Hey, what kind of light should I get?" I was like, "Definitely get video ready lighting if you want to just start." I think I told you, Harrison. I was like, if you have good content, for me personally, I use this stuff because I have it, not because I feel like I need it.
Mhm,
Because I had it, I was like, that's the only way I know how to make content is with this stuff.
mhm,
But I feel like at the end of the day, if your content, if you're authentic, if you're passionate what you're talking about, most people like Rudy Alpha Investments.
yeah.
Look at that guy's setup. I mean,
Yeah, you're
sure,
right,
his
100%.
backdrop is this whole freaking stock, but it's like the most jankiest setup,
It's
and
his
he's
phone
sitting in
probably.
a folding chair in his video. So sometimes if people come to me and they say, I want to upgrade my setup, usually I'll say first, like, is your content good? Like, are you passionate about your content? Do you like your content? Is it engaging? That's why I feel like most all of you guys here, if you're like, oh, I need to upgrade myself, like, hey, if it's working for you, do it. Upgrade your setup because you can, not because you need to.
Mhm,
But that being said, my camera I'm using here is a DSLR that can
Mhm.
plug in via webcam. So
mhm,
the sensor on the cameras just look a lot more flattering because you get more of the room. It just feels more quote unquote cinematic,
mhm,
which gives that little bit separation. I don't think with this lens it gives very much blur in the background because it's so wide. But the camera is a secret sauce. But I think at the end of the day, lighting and having it be soft and bouncing off something or a video light. Like one thing I can try is I have this like a lot of people like using those ring lights. Have you guys seen those?
Yeah.
Very popular. Let me see if I have one here that I use for taking pictures of like Pokemon cards.
mhm,
Let's see how that looks. So there's this one. That's not too bad. I mean, it's a little more moodier,
mhm,
but even a cheap ring light, if I were to bounce this off the wall, it still has kind of a flattering look. It's
mhm,
not as bright as my other one, but I think if you were to get any type, and this was like a $30 light. You can see here. So this is like one off of Amazon. So I would say to upgrade your setup is lighting is like the most like key thing. Now for a backdrop, sure. I mean, right now my mic is conveniently covering my mess of a chair back there full of Pokemon cards. So
Yeah.
sure, at the end of the day, you could clean up our setups. And the whole thing about shooting into a corner is that it gives you more depth. So if you have, and again, I don't go to a person's channel and be like, for example, Mike, your setup is sick. All that stuff in the background, shooting in the corner, I don't freaking care. Like
Right.
you have a sick backdrop. It looks cool. It's you, it's your brand. So I think if you're trying to go for a cinematic setup, sure. Like for me, if I were to shoot like just against my wall, it would feel a little bit flat because I don't have cool stuff in the background. So for me, kind of like shooting into the corner gives more interest because I have, I painted a black wall with the white and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's aspects there that you could do to level up, but I think for anyone wanting to just say, what's the next investment I could make if I'm using my phone or a webcam, is to invest in some lighting or two. Sometimes people do like two lights that kind of like fill, the shadows in your face.
Right.
That could help
Yeah.
too. And of course, anything again like this light is very daylight. It's very cool versus more of like a room light that's going to be
Yellowish.
like this light has the ability to
Oh,
go
white.
warmer. Let me see if I can change it. This is a lot more warmer. It actually it's not too bad.
That's
But
Yeah.
overall, again, like you want to have lighting
soft
on
light.
your stuff that you put in, on Amazon that has the ability to do like daylight settings. I kind of like that warmer one actually. I'm just gonna change
Oh,
it.
was that Video Red lighting? That's a brand then?
Which one?
The Video Red lighting.
Oh no, yeah. I was to say the video rated lighting. So if you
Video
just type in
rated.
like
Gotcha.
LED video lighting, if you type that on Amazon, there will be a lot of companies like Godox that comes up. There's expensive ones like Aperture, but Godox has some cheaper ones because I'm even though I have nice equipment, I'm a person who's just like don't buy it unless you feel like you're passionate about your content.
No,
You'll waste a lot of money trying to like make it look good, but your content's flat.
I think that's like an excellent point, and it also at least to me, it speaks to like the trap that we fall into as people, like I think you were saying earlier, like you feel like a perfectionist. I think a lot of people I've met in this space, it's the same way. We all are perfectionists, and we realize that we're not going to be perfect, but we're doing it anyway. And I think that's awesome in itself that we're taking that step, and it's a hard step to take. I'm not blaming anybody for holding off, but just do it. Like you said, just try it. But I think what you're saying is absolutely correct. Like if your content's good, then it doesn't matter. That other stuff doesn't matter, but we look for something to blame. So we forget that it takes a little bit to gain traction for most people. It doesn't, so when we don't get traction as fast as we wanted or whatever, oh, that last video didn't do too good. You know what? I need better lighting. You know what? I need a better camera. That's what it is. So like it's natural to fall into that trap of like I need another person to blame. Or something to blame, something to say I need. So that's a really excellent point, and I think that it made me feel better to hear you say that again. I mean, you've told me this, and it's like, hearing you say it again, it still made me
Well,
feel better.
and that's the
But
thing. If you go see my stuff, like not all my stuff is like they're not consistent in views, which means that my equipment doesn't matter as much.
right,
Now there are people who have given me feedback saying, "Oh, this looks high quality." Okay, cool. I appreciate that they noticed that, but I can like definitely say that if you want to slowly upgrade, don't go all in on a $500 or $700 camera. Get good lighting first. Like in the video world, the best Hollywood cameras that are $60,000 look like crap if it's not with good lighting.
right.
So lighting is everything. I'll say that to the moon. You can have the cheapest cameras ever. Like I said, my last video was shot on an iPhone. I just use the same lighting that looks decent. So,
Right.
but yeah, good lights.
And
That's
and
the
audio,
tip.
like you want audio. Yeah, I've noticed
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Audio.
because a lot of
I
people
think
don't
audio is really
watch
important
YouTube; they'll
too.
just
Yeah.
listen to it. Yeah,
Probably
you know
more
what I mean?
important than the video
Well, I
experience,
mean, if you're
honestly, is
talking
audio.
about the video, like if you're sitting watching a video, you're 100% right. But if you're like doing the dishes or working on a car or listening to something, then you want that audio to be crisp, clear, and clean. I think that's a really good thing.
Mhm.
I want to make sure my audio is good. I'm still trying to work on that. I got one more question, and that's going to be for all of you, and we'll do it one at a time. Mike, we'll start with you. But if there was somebody who wanted to do what you do, whether that, that's investing, collecting, content creation, building a deck, whatever it is, if there was somebody out there that wanted to do what you're doing right now, what advice would you have for them?
Well, I mean, step one would be learn how to play, right? Don't go out and think that you could just throw some decks together and expect them to sell. I've seen when I first started getting into the space, there really wasn't anybody, right? Like I think I seen one on eBay and there was nobody else, and I was like, shoot, this could be my little niche because I was selling singles and stuff. And then I went all in, and since then there's been a ton of people kind of recreate it, but you could tell they don't necessarily play themselves, right? It's trainers that are outdated or don't necessarily fit, or just the energy ain't right. So learn how to play, go on TCG Live, play as many decks as you could possibly play with. They give you a ton of different options, and learn how to play. That would be step one. Step two is you have to get organized. Yeah, right. Everybody has most likely a ton of bulk sitting all over the place, multiple different boxes.
Yep.
That doesn't help you when you're trying to build and you're like, I need 4 of this guy, or I need 3
Mhm.
copies of this, right? So it has to be organized. I have everything by set, supporters, tools, gyms, everything separate in their own boxes, organized by like if it's a trainer that allows you to draw cards, I have them all stacked together. If it's a dragon Pokemon, they're all together. So everything is kind of organized. So I know what I have. So even if somebody hits me up and is like, hey, can you make this deck? I'll usually know off the top of my head if I can make it or not. Or if not, I know where to find those cards to make that deck.
Nice.
So you have to be organized with the cards that you have. And the third would be read the cards, right? Read the text, know what's on the cards, because there's a ton of cards that just get overlooked, especially if you're collector. Most of the time it's your hits, right? Everybody knows what the hits do. Even if you don't play, you probably read them, you know their HP, you know their attack. So it's those common cards, those uncommon cards that kind of slip under the rug, nobody really pays attention to, but you can make some nasty decks right off the jump with a lot of those cards that really don't cost you a lot of money. Like the last set was well, before this rotation, Hussein Zoroark, I was trashing meta decks left and right with my build of that deck, just because nobody even knew what it did. Everybody would have to look like, what card is that, and
Yeah.
constantly read it, but it got swept under the rug, and
Yep.
nobody knew what it did.
I love that.
And then even for like this rotation coming up, I've been testing out like Palafin, not the Heroes Cape one, not the EX, just regular Palafin.
Mhm.
He hits for 210,
Yep.
right? You can rotate him in and out, throw a Mimikyu to protect. So it's like those just regular hollows and those basic
Yep.
cards that kind of get pushed away that could work. And then after you're organized and you know what the cards do, you could piece stuff together and you could start like building. I'll use the name Out the Box decks, and it doesn't have to necessarily be meta decks, right?
Mhm.
And start somewhere and just kind of test the waters. And again, I'm say test out on eBay. Now that there is more people doing it, there is more people searching for decks as well. So
Yep.
yes, there's more competition, but at the same time, you kind of have a market building of people looking to get into the game. So I think they would be the 3 steps I would recommend to somebody to kind of get into it. And don't expect to make a ton of money, at
Mhm.
least not initially, right? It's not necessarily about the money, it's about the love of Pokemon and playing the game, right?
Right.
Making somebody happy, building those connections with what they could play with their family, friends, or winning tournaments and stuff like that. After you kind of build that foundation out and learn about the cards, learn how to make the decks, and then start getting a couple people buying the decks, it kind of picks up and the ball starts rolling
Yep.
downhill and picking up steam. So it's just a matter of learning the product and testing out things after you know what you're working with. It's just a matter of putting it together.
That's an excellent point. Yep. And I mean, people really do sleep on Palafin. You're not lying. I love that. I love that Pokemon too. Like always people like the Obsidian Flames Palafin, the blue one. Like that thing's beautiful. Like I love that
It's a
card.
great artwork too. You can get the illustration plug in for that beautiful art into the deck
Yep.
too. It looks really
Really
nice.
good. Yeah.
I pulled that prismatic SIR
Oh, you
Palafin.
did? You did?
That does look, yeah,
That's a nice card.
too. Yeah.
Holy cow! Yeah, that is a nice card. Oh man, that's awesome.
Sadly, it was all damaged out of the. It had like all these dents and stuff on the back of it.
Oh, come
Good
on,
old Pokemon, man.
man, yeah. God, they giveth and they taketh away. Um,
Yep.
Same question to you though, Blake. If somebody want to do what you do, the investing and how you analyze things and do like, what advice would you have for them? Somebody wanted to be where you are.
Yeah, I mean, I think even just like for the newer person coming into the hobby right now, it's maybe a little overwhelming. And you might be tempted to just sort of just head out and start buying every cool thing that you find. Um, I would recommend against that because
That's me.
well, and I've done it before, right? I've been in those shoes too, and it's like, you know, there's an unlimited amount of cool cards, cool boxes, cool things to collect and invest in this space. And so it's really worth, I think, kind of doing some research, just like digging into the space, starting to understand, watch some content creators, look at some of these websites, look at some of these sets, start to understand how it all works, and maybe start to figure out what you want to collect, because you really can't collect everything unless you're, Elon Musk and a billionaire or whatever. Like
Yeah.
it's just, you don't have the money, right?
Yeah.
Like no one has the money to collect everything. No one has the money to invest in everything too. Like you got to figure out your budget, and then I think figure out what you love the most. From an investing side, you really need to think about what the masses love. That's pretty important, and it may not be what you love.
Mhm.
If you're fortunate enough to already like the stuff that everybody else likes, then you'll probably have an easier time picking an investment. But that's something you got to be careful about, is that you might have a card that you're like, I love this card, but nobody else loves it.
Yeah.
That's probably not a great investment. It's a great collectible, but not a great investment. So I think it's important to keep those two separate as well, and treat them differently. You may collect something just because you just love the art, you love the card. That's awesome. But if you're going to make a play on it, buy a bunch of a single or stock up on some booster boxes or some other ancillary item. Make sure it's something that you think that other people are gonna want in the future. And it's got good fundamentals. So yeah, some simple tips, I guess there.
Yeah.
And then also too, like, don't be afraid to just on the investing side, don't be afraid to just start doing it.
Yeah.
It's like you don't have to go all in on one set or anything. It's like maybe you just start by buying a booster box of some of the sets that are not too hot, not too expensive. Paradox Rift, Temporal Forces, Nostalgianomics just made a video about those. And it's like, I've been a fan of Paradox Rift since the beginning, and I've bought several cases of that because I love that set. I don't know why people are sleeping on that set, but
It's an awesome
at
set.
MSRP, it's an amazing set. It's so many good cards in that
Yeah,
set.
it does.
Oh, and my viewers are probably tired of me talking about Paradox Rift, so I apologize if you're watching this. But no, like there are still sets that are reasonably priced, and you don't have to go buy whole cases of them and fill your closet full. Go buy a box,
Right.
and don't go crazy, and just watch over time as these things appreciate, and then you'll believe in it more, and you'll get better at picking things. And yeah, so take it in bite-sized chunks, I'd say, whether you're collecting or investing. Yeah, there's some
Yeah, I
tips.
wish I would have heard that about a year ago. I'd have been in a better position right now.
I get it.
But no, yeah, all of that's great tips, all of that stuff, and that the good thing about it is that that's not just speaking like to a business or to it. This is like a collector, investor standpoint. Like be smart with how you do it. A lot of us, I mean, if you're like me, then you see the shiny thing and you're like, let's go get it. And I do. I like to collect what I like to collect. I have a bunch of favorite Pokemon. I like to collect them. I have some favorite artists. I like to collect them. And now it's getting even heavier because I want to grade those and I want to do, you know what I mean? So like it starts adding up and compounding. And once you realize how much you've put into this one card just in shipping, and you've shipped it 3 times now, like like you start to see that all that stuff adds up. And yeah, you got to really, like you said, pick and choose. Do your research, your due diligence. No matter what somebody's saying in a video, go do your own research and look at it, and see what the best thing for you is. And a lot of times it's not what you like, or it's not what people acting like they
Yeah.
like, but you know what people like. You know what I mean? Like you can there's ways of figuring that out. All excellent tips, and I'm glad you're here to share that kind of stuff with us, man.
I'll give just one more tip on the graded cards too, by
Mhm.
the way. You can save a lot of money grading cards yourself, but sometimes the gem rate on a card is so low that it's better off you're better off just buying the card graded, you know?
True.
And one thing that you can do is like if you have a card like Obsidian Flames IRs are a classic example of this. The gem rates are like in the toilet. They're all like 18%, 20%. It's like really bad. Very hard to grade those cards. Very hard to find raw copies that you can grade. But what you can do is find some cards that are a little easier to grade. Maybe they don't have as big of a margin. Get those, source those raw, sell those, make your profit, and then roll your profit into something that's harder to get that you really want for your collection. I did that recently with the Crystal Lugia. Is a big old massive card that I never thought I'd be able to get, but I was able to sell off a whole bunch of other stuff that I graded myself. Take those wins and then roll that into something else. So that's the way you can do it too. Is you don't necessarily have to grade that exact card that you want. Maybe you grade some other cards that are desirable to the hobby. They're liquid. Sell those, roll the profit into a card that you've been wanting for your collection.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Brian, same thing. What you do everything. So there's a bunch of people right now that want to do all kinds of different things that you know about. So what advice would you
Yeah.
give them?
Yeah, totally. I would say right now I am not a Pokemon card seller who makes content. I am a content creator who sells Pokemon cards.
Okay.
So that being said, I think that uh, well, if you what I'm doing and many people like you and me, Harrison, we're like this. It's not new. Like
Yeah.
new people coming into the scene selling Pokemon cards. It's like we're very small fish in a very very big pond, especially when you're up against Whatnot and TikTok and all these
Yeah.
people. And so I would say, like, one, I was definitely listening to what my audience was engaging with my first couple of videos. Like they said, really love your quality, really love your approach to the hobby, really love this and that. And so I said, okay, me in building my brand, I had to figure out a way to stand out amongst all of the other sellers and people getting into the hobby right now
Mhm.
and figure out a way to provide value that was different. And that's why I feel like all of you guys here bring something that's very different to the hobby that I haven't seen yet.
Mhm.
Right. And I think that if we figure out how to double down on that, we'll be able to cut through that noise. So my encouragement to someone would be like, figure out what you like and what you feel like you won't burn yourself out on. And then if it's selling in at least in the sphere of selling, then go down that route. Like I said earlier, like I'm not going to sell Lorcana if Lorcana blows up, because I know it's kind of like hurting right now, but I'm not going to go down that route because there's money to be made. I'm going to go down that route because I love that part of the hobby. And so I think from a brand standpoint is figure out ways that you can specifically provide value into the hobby or to other people, more than it is about your own personal gain. Like I think I heard someone when it came to trading is that the person who, if you're trading with someone and the person that you trade with, if they left with a better deal than what you got, then that's the best trade that you can give.
That's awesome.
It's not about what you can get from it, even though you want to be profitable. But if you feel like you gave them the better cut, and that's how I feel with my content right now. Like YouTube is a great place to generate revenue, all that stuff. And at the end of the day, I got money tied up in Pokemon cards, so I got to sell Pokemon cards. What I realize is that I'm providing people with that encouragement or excitement to do it on their own. So I feel like for me, that's the trade off.
Right.
Like my trade off isn't going to be sales and views on my website. It's going to encourage other people to pursue their passions.
Right.
And so that's part of my brand. My brand isn't just selling Pokemon cards. It's being goofy. It's buying ingredients. It's selling cards. And in addition, like I've also had to turn away a lot of people who say, I want 151 and I want prismatic. And I'm like, sorry, even though I can go to marketplace right now and buy you 151 for $75 a booster bundle, that may have gotten scalped, and that's not going to be my business model. And if you don't want to buy from me, that's I don't care. And so I think in that sense, I've also had to train and starting to train my audience, or at least figuring it out of how to say, hey, Brian isn't going to be the prismatic 151 English plug.
Yep.
He's got other stuff. And so even now my videos, you'll see roll out. Like I posted a video on my TikTok about how a kid couldn't get Pokemon cards and it kind of blew up and all this stuff. And what I realized is like there's a problem in the market right now of people not being able to access Pokemon cards at a fair price. So I'm like, again, it's not new, but I want to figure out a way to create a solution for that. I think that's as a business how to sustain is you create solutions, not just come in when everyone else is doing the same thing. So I would say for someone who wants to start out, if you can figure out what your local community is looking for, if that's possible. I think there's just too many people into it to know what your community is looking for. But listen, the internet is mad right now. So figure out a way in your own little, following that you have to show that you want to provide solutions to the next meta deck or to proper investing or to selling at a fair price. And so I would say like be honest, be authentic, and don't try to chase everything. Like again, I'm not going to be the reason why I'm not getting caught up in the MJ holdings, or I'm not getting caught up in the fact that I don't have a distributor is because I'm focusing on the things I do have access to and doubling down on that instead of trying to be what everyone else wants me to be, which is their prismatic plug. And I'm sorry, I'm not gonna be your prismatic plug. I can get you a Badoo because I ripped one ETB and I can help you build your deck, but I'm not gonna be like I ran into a guy at Target and he was like, "Hey, I watched your content." And I'm like, "Sick. Let me know if you need Pokemon cards." And he goes, "You got prismatic?" I'm like, "Bro, I don't got prismatic.
I've had it.
I got Terrastal." Okay.
Yeah.
And so I think yeah, I can definitely be your trick or trade plug, Tiger.
That's
But
pretty
anyway,
good.
so yeah, I would say one when it comes to branding is figure out what you feel like you're passionate about and do that, of course. And don't try to be what everyone else needs you to be in a certain market because you will fail and you'll get burnt out. And that's why I'm not chasing distributors. I'm not chasing Prismatic. I'm not chasing 151. I'm chasing what I do have access to and then providing a solution with giving the best price I can without losing my shirt to whoever needs it. So
Absolutely,
yeah.
I couldn't agree with you more, and I'm doing exactly the same thing. That makes me feel good because, like, it makes me feel like I'm on the right path, man. If you're doing this, like, I'm like,
We'll see. We'll see.
yeah. I mean, hey, it might not make us rich, man, but you know what? It'll make us wealthy in spirit and in heart. Like we're like you said, it's like we see this problem and we want to make it better. I mean, what's wrong with that? Like that's you. I mean, it makes me feel better about myself that I'm actively trying to do what I can, whether it's bringing people together to teach people, whether it's trying to create a community of people to help bounce ideas off of, or like you said, providing the best possible price. There's the price points that I just won't go above, and if that's going to be what it is, I'll either get what's cheaper or sorry guys, we're out. You know what I mean? Because I would rather do that than sell above MSRP. I won't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like it just
Yeah.
there's certain rules about because I'm here to provide that. I know that the problem is that everything's crazy, the market's crazy, people can't get product. I want to provide that. And I get exactly what you're saying, man. I respected you guys before we got here, but I can't. I mean, I respect you like, even more now. It's insane. Like I've enjoyed the conversation a lot. I do want you to go around. We can go. Mike, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to you, Blake, and then to you again, Brian. But I want you guys to plug your stuff, tell people where they can find you, anything you got coming up, whatever you want to say. Anybody listening, I want them to know who you are. And again, I'll have all your stuff in the description as well. Just want to make sure that you let people know where you are.
All right. I am again Mike with Outtheboxtcg. You can find me currently right now on eBay. My store name is Finders Keepers NJ. But if you do search Out the Box, it will pull up all the decks that I have available. I am on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, Outtheboxtcg, as far as the handle for everything. You can message me there and we could work it out outside of eBay, and that way I don't have to pay him a percentage and I'll give that discount down to you. That's kind of how I operate there. I release 10 decks on average per week, ranging from every type, whether it be meta or something that's unique and out the box. And hopefully you guys check out my store and hit me up. Appreciate the time.
Yeah, it really is awesome. I can't vouch for him enough. Like I've enjoyed just reviewing, looking over the stuff he's got and thinking, how would this play and how would that play? And yeah, I definitely check him out, man. I'm glad you're here. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it.
No, thank you.
Yeah, and I'm Blake, Pokeball Cards. Here, I'll turn on my camera so you can see my logo. There you go. Pretty easy to find. On YouTube, I also have an Instagram as well. I try to release a couple of videos a week right now. I used to do a little bit more, but life's kind of busy. So this is kind of my goal right now, is just to hit 2 a week. Usually one of them is like a pack opening video, and I'll throw some meme clips in and just have a good time. It's just me, just having fun, basically. And then I also try to do a video that's like either market related or maybe just kind of a heart to heart, talking about either the current issues or the current sentiment of the market or some advice on collecting or investing. So my content is kind of broad, but yeah, maybe that'll hopefully keep things fresh for you. So come check me out. Would love to have another subscriber. And I love when people comment too. I've got a few people that are just like really faithful at commenting, and it's just fun because I feel like I'm getting to know those people.
Yep.
So content creators love that. It's not just for, getting clicks and likes and all that stuff. It's just fun to get to know our viewers, so.
That is so true. That is so true. And I gotta say that I do enjoy your content. I'm not just fluffing when I say that. Like I really do. I watch your videos, and I'm probably one of
I
the people that
appreciate it.
comment a little bit. But yeah, keep doing what you're doing, man. I think that all of you guys gonna have a good future in this space. Uh,
Thank you.
Brian, what about you?
Yeah. So I'm Brian, PokeBryBry. You can search that on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Pretty much Instagram and TikTok is more of like I try to have those be like the BTS of my life in the terms of the hobby, while also trying to plug the channels. My storefront is Grail Vault Collections, and so grailvaultcollections.com. I do have an Instagram for that. Still trying to figure out the strategy for that channel, but I just have it there just to have it. And so the website's grailvaultcollections.com. On there selling of course, Japanese sealed. Every once in a while, if I get like an English sealed collection, which I do have, experimenting with a lot of different singles now with One Piece and Magic, a little bit of that stuff. But of course, like YouTube right now is like it's a channel that's like seems like, oh, how to start a Pokemon card business, go watch PokeBryBry. For me, it's my video diary of me starting a business. So I'm kind of making the statement now that is my niche. It's in my video diary, not how to start a Pokemon card business.
That's good.
But yeah, so yeah, those are my channels, and I will be. So I'm in the Seattle area. So I tried my best to get scheduled event shows. They're all sold out vendor tables wise, but whatnot, or maybe any of the live stream version of any of the channels will be the place where I want to try and connect with the community. If you can't come meet me in person at a show, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, you guys, all their stuff's in the description, and you can on the Discord, you can come in the Discord and talk to any of us. And also PokeBryBry has got a Discord as well that will also be in the description if
Oh
you
yeah.
want to join his. Uh Great people there, excellent conversation. Anything you can think of, from grading advice to investing advice to a special place for just people that own businesses. There's all of that stuff is there. So just be sure to check them all out. I can't speak highly enough of these guys. I mean, you just sat and listened to them talk. They care about what they're doing. They're passionate about the hobby, and they're just great guys. And I look forward to having y'all back. I mean, it'll be with different guests. We're going to flip flop around as the time goes on. So hopefully we'll have y'all back on soon. I wanted to do a thing where we kind of do the live chat, but it is kind of a late night, and I don't expect too many people to be on and ready to do live chats. So it's something we're definitely building to and trying out formats. And thank you guys for being patient with us as we do figure out how we do this. We're just a bunch of good sports that like talking about the hobby. So hopefully this was informational, and it taught you something. I know I learned something. I'm just, I don't know. I'm just glad to be here with these guys, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And we'll catch you on the next one. All right.
Thank you.